How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No Excuses on VTWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, are still.
Fenurian.
And Volacel, and we're here to bring you the latest news and views on the video games industry for the week. And anything else that crosses our minds, because it's a really, really, really light week this week, unfortunately. But we'll do our best anyway.
We got a chunk of nuggets, but nothing really meaty to sink into this week.
If you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in our Discord server. I had to stop myself from saying IRC chat for some reason.
Wow, why?
I'm not sure why.
Stupid brain.
Which is most easily accessed by, well, it should be in the YouTube show details, right? Something like that now. You guys wanted to change the shtick, but since I don't know that particular method of getting to it, you can also easily access it by going to vtwproductions.com and clicking on the show logo in any of our recent show posts, which will take you directly to our Discord. Also, I'm in the process of transferring all of our archived shows from YouTube over to BitChute.com as a backup, because you never know when YouTube is going to go full retard and purge everybody. So,
I guarantee you their little auto language thing has us on the list. If we tried to monetize this thing, they'd tell us lol no.
Oh yeah, you should see some of our marks sometime. But
do we actually have marks on the show? I don't actually go to the show pages or show YouTube videos that much.
The occasional copyright mark
for music, mostly though. I would think
music, yeah. But if we tried to monetize, then yeah, we'd have black marks all over the place. Yeah, YouTube is... It seems like they declared war on game content lately.
They've declared war on anything that isn't approved think.
Stop being bad.
I mean, they're owned by Google, and Google has made it official company policy that they have a moral duty as a company to prevent the re-election of Donald Trump. This is their standpoint as a business. That's their business strategy.
That's a really dumb business strategy.
That's what they're running with.
Yeah. Alright, so on the stream today, I'm dusted off a bit of Factorio. It's been a long time since I've actually looked at this game, and they've changed a whole lot of things, so I'm not sure what I'm doing anymore.
You just seem to really love factory building games.
There's something really satisfying about building this production line with complicated machinery and resource management, and then just sitting back and watching it work. There's also some sort of dark delight you can get out of it, of sitting back and watching the whole thing catch fire and explode as well.
What curveballs do they throw you? Like, I've never played the game. So
Factorio,
once it's running, does it just run forever? Like,
to
I
a
mean,
point.
What do they do to you?
Yeah, resource deposits do eventually run down, but you can just move your extractors and you'll be fine on that. You also do need to deal with alien dog things, I guess. I'm not sure exactly what they're called, but they're kind of a ratty dog lizard thing that comes up and tries to eat your factories. As your factory gets bigger, it makes more pollution, which will attract more alien dog thingies. So if you try and go for a walk somewhere to find more resources and they decide to attack, then you can come back to just a smouldering pile of rubble. Not fun. To that end, you do need to build defenses, but those defenses need active injections of ammunition or power, depending on which way you go.
I see.
Yeah. There is also a storyline mode to play through as well. So yeah, I'm not sure what other bits and pieces they've added in since I've last played this game, because it has been quite some time. But it used to be you'd build your factory up to a point, you'd get research going and unlock more machines, but sooner or later you'd hit a point where you need to actively hunt the aliens in order to progress your research. And they don't play nice. And your weapons tend to be kind of garbage. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. I'm not expecting great things, because like I said, I've pretty much forgotten how to play this game. I guess we can just jump straight into weeks then. My week
Go
this
for
week
it.
has been fairly light. A lot of loafing because I'm in this kind of mythical limbo where I've finally got free time and I don't know what to do with it now.
So you just sort of blob out.
I kind of blobbed out a bit for a while, yeah.
I can get behind that.
Yeah, you just got to do it sometimes.
Yeah.
What am I even doing here? There we go. Okay, now I know what I'm doing. So yeah, I kept on chipping away at the Ward audiobook. I've gotten up to about arc 8, I believe it is.
Okay.
Where the big war's just about to start.
That's still going to be just about to start until where the actual written part is up to right now.
Yeah.
There are the players. We're still working on wrapping up plot threads from Worm.
Yeah. But this big war has been just about to erupt for maybe 4 or 5 chapters at this point.
Yeah, most of Arc 8 is a setup for future chapters.
Yep.
Chapter 9 Arc 9 is the big explosive chapter. I want you to get to Arc 9 because I have a lot of criticisms for how Arc 9 is written. It's pretty good, but it is the most draining arc in all of Worm Reward.
Oh dear, is it just dense or badly written?
Or does it just drag on?
Or does it just drag?
It's long and it's got a gimmick.
Oh dear. That doesn't sound good.
From what you're saying, it sounds like this gimmick grows tiresome very quickly.
Yes.
Oh dear.
Yes, it does. It is easily the most draining chapter. The root story, after you dig the gimmick out, is good. You just have to put up with the gimmick in a first-person perspective the whole time the chapter's going on.
Ew. Yeah,
but it does have
that doesn't work.
the best interlude so far for
Okay.
Ward. So yeah, but we finally get Tristan and Byron's interlude there. So
okay, that's good.
They get like 3 of them for the whole chapter too, and they're all done by Crispy, so you get a good narrator for them.
Yeah, so far I've been through Damsel's interlude and Kenzie's. Damsel's is pretty much what you'd expect. She's a supervillain who got cloned by a murder cult. And horrible things tend to happen to her. Kenzie's, though, is just straight up messed up.
I thought Kenzie's was really well written. I didn't think I would like Kenzie's. I didn't think I would like Kenzie's at all. But the pig managed to make me like it.
Yeah. So it is very well written, but the stuff that actually happens to her in her past and what ultimately leads up to her getting her powers is, yeah, it's dark.
It's some of the most messed up stuff in the story.
Yeah. So not going to spoil that.
It doesn't help that she's like 11 or 12.
Yeah, she's only 11 or 12, or 9 at the time a lot of this stuff happens.
Yeah, even younger.
Yeah.
So, is it that artists are totally screwed up in the head so they write stuff like this, or does writing stuff like this screw them up in the head?
I think to be a good writer, you have to be screwed up in the head. To
some degree. And honestly, with the stuff that comes out of both Worm and Ward, you really got to worry for Wildbow. Because,
okay.
Yeah, damn.
Well, the dude grew up in California, but he's legally deaf.
Okay.
Like the dude can't hear. He can, but you have to scream at him.
Right. Okay. I didn't know.
So is that why he can't tell when his audiobooks are really bad?
Well, Rain's doing the audiobooks entirely by himself. Wildbow isn't involved at all.
Yeah.
It's a fan project, and Wildbow, despite working to publish Worm, is told Rain he's going to pretend he doesn't know about the audiobooks so that he doesn't have any legal shenanigans whatsoever, and Rain can keep doing his thing.
Okay, that's fair enough. Just turn a blind eye to things.
Yeah, because
wouldn't it be nice if Nintendo did that sometimes?
I know, right?
Yeah, incidentally, I have not directly talked to Rain in ages. And on a whim, I left him a message on the front of the Word audiobook page. And I pointed out that he'd been doing the fan project for like half a decade, and it's a massive project.
Oh, it's huge.
I called him a madman, and I can't tell if it was in jest taking it lightly and just rolling with it, or if he was genuinely horrified with how much time had passed. Because he started listing off everything he'd done in the meantime.
Yeah. So it's been, 5-6 years now?
Yeah, 5.5, yeah.
Yeah.
That boy's been working just as hard as the pig. Wild Bo has a pig avatar, so everybody calls him the pig.
Right. just because.
Why would you try and break a man like that, Ari?
It's not my fault. It is my fault. It's all my fault, but it was funny.
So yeah, it's good, but again, like I said last week, really can't talk about it too much without spoilers.
Yeah. We'll give it a. Now that you've actually read it, we can probably put a solid, no spoilers past arc past arc 9.
Yeah,
I think
let me hit arc 9 first.
Yeah, we can safely spoil up to arc 9.
Yeah, I don't care about being spoiled. If I ever had that much free time, I would probably read Umineko instead.
This is why working with an audiobook running is the way to do things.
So,
right.
Yeah, when you read arc 9, I'll have some words to say about how dumb some of the decisions were when writing that.
All right, so that'll be next week.
It's a thing.
Oh dear. All right, what else have I done? Not a whole lot more, really. I dusted off Pillars of Eternity then again because I picked up Deadfire on the sale, and I thought, okay, I might jump ahead and just play this because the game in general is better. But then I saw an option which says, all your decisions you made in the first game matter.
Yeah.
So
it's one of dim games.
So going back through that, I started again because I wasn't all that far in the first time round with a different class. Like first time I went in with a wizard, which is all the enemies kind of say, "Oh look, there's the protagonist. We must eat him. Yum yum." So yeah, the protagonist tends to die if you pick a wizard, a lot.
Yeah, they play in that series specifically. The tropes of quadratic wizards and linear warriors are really, really hard.
Yeah.
It ain't even funny.
I do appreciate a lot of the things with the settings. Like, it's obviously inspired by Dungeons and Dragons, but they do get a bit insistent with their terminology. Like, it's not a kobold, it's a Zorup.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. And so on.
They're already aping the Baldur's Gate style of RPG, and they probably don't want to tick off Wizards of the Coast too much.
Yeah, I would say it's more like Wizards of the Coast are so notoriously litigious that this is sort of hanging a lampshade on it.
Yeah, it probably is. But it's still good. As you go on through the game, your party members kind of lighten up a bit, and then they become even less shy about taking the piss out of your protagonist when you kind of go into that soul-seeing trance. I'm just waiting for one of them to start hanging things on him.
Hang on, dudes. Having a vision.
Yeah, I'm just going to stand here and drool for a while.
Yeah, they do that.
Meanwhile, your party members are standing behind you and they're saying, oh yeah, this is totally normal.
Drawing on your face.
Yeah, that's probably going to happen. There's a couple of party members I would not put it beyond them.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past quite a few of them. They're all a little messed up.
Yeah. They're all good, fun characters. Some of them are a bit serious. Like, I'm not entirely sure what's his name, Durance's deal is, the priest. He's kind
of... The Darf?
Pardon?
The Darf?
No, the Darf is the hunter.
Okay, I forget who all is what. I never finished the game and did not play all the way through it, so...
Yeah, Durance is a priest who actively calls his gods pretty much every horrible name under the sun.
Does he have a beard?
Yeah, that's him.
Okay.
So
yeah, he's ridiculous.
He's kind of insane.
He's my favorite character of the companions. He's the one I was talking about earlier. I thought he was the Darf, but I guess not.
No, he's not a dwarf. But
he was the one I was telling you to go find when you were first playing the game.
He's really good just to have in the party as well. Like, it's AoE buffs, and he can do some serious damage when he really wants to as well, which is nice.
He's also incredibly racist.
Oh, unbelievably so.
Like, so racist, it's the funniest thing in the world.
Like, yeah, it goes beyond being offensive.
Speaking of demonetization.
But, yeah, like, you go into a temple at one point to his god, and you're talking to the priestess, and here he is in the background ranting and raving and carrying on something horrible.
Do you know why he's insane yet?
I know part of the story. I've gotten a bit of it, but I'm not going to spoil that.
Okay, yeah, it's he has a good reason for being.
He's got a pretty good reason. But you got to be careful when you're going through the conversation with him, because if you say the wrong thing, he suddenly turns everything straight back on you.
Durance is the best.
Yeah. So you don't have your bard, you've got your chanter, who is basically a bard except better in every possible way.
Yeah, a bard that has offense.
Yeah. I like that character. I forget his name, Kana or something like that. The giant shark man.
Oh, yeah, the guy with the funky teeth.
Yeah, him. So yeah, it's just a good lot of fun characters. The mechanics are good. Like, it takes a lot of what the original Baldur's Gate game set down and improves upon it.
Yeah, much better than Divinity does, I'll add.
Divinity kind of does some very strange things.
Yeah, and the move speed is tolerable in Pillars of Eternity, unlike Divinity, where it feels like you are crawling through that video game.
Well, Pillars of Eternity even has a fast forward button. Like, you just want to cross the map, you press a fast button and watch everyone scamper around.
Yeah, and they realize that downtime is not a fun part of gameplay.
Yeah. It's where part of where the Baldur's Gate game really fell down the first time.
Yeah, and that's the big problem when playing these older games. Like, these old grindy video games were cool and all back in the day when we had time to play them, but we don't anymore.
No, we got adults.
I don't want to, but we have to.
What else? That's really been about it for my week. There's been a fair amount of work. Like, we're coming into our serious season, and starting next week we have the Drunk Cowboy event that nobody honestly cares about. To be followed by the Drunk Cowboy event that too many people care about.
You and Drunk Cowboys.
It's a plague around here. It really is.
To be fair, once upon a time, I was a drunk cowboy.
No, you weren't.
I don't know. Do you remember me back when I was heavy drinking?
Oh, yeah, I do. But you weren't a drunk cowboy on this scale. Like, you still had some semblance of wit about you. Sort of.
No, I didn't.
That's why I say sort of.
No, I did not.
It's a big qualifier one. But,
quote, I talk a lot. I remember that happening all the time.
Oh, yes, you did.
I remember you relieving yourself into a can and leaving it on your disc and then forgetting.
Ooh,
that happened.
Okay. I missed that one.
You were there for that one.
Was I? I must have forgotten about it.
You might have blocked it out.
That's probably it. So, yeah, unfortunately, in the infinite wisdom of the local council, we've got the rodeo happens out at the racecourse at the north end of town. The best way to get there is a straight road that goes straight from the centre of the town to the racecourse, which has a little bridge, ironically named after Bob Catter's father. The council, in their infinite wisdom, is going to be removing that bridge the day before these big events start. I am almost certain somebody is going to drive a car and drop it into that river. Creek. Trench.
Thing.
I don't know, is it still a river if it doesn't have any water in it?
That's a ditch.
Oh, right, yeah, I forgot. It's 30 degrees in midwinter for you guys, isn't it?
It's actually trying to rain at the moment. I have no idea what is even our weather.
And by rain, you mean the clouds are sort of coughing.
Yeah, it's kind of a very light mist. So it's just enough to make everything uncomfortably moist.
Man, I'm glad our weather's just, unreasonably warm for most people all year. We don't have any wonky weather.
Only during winter
seems like you live in the twilight zone for weather is what it sounds like whenever I hear about the weather going on there.
During the summer, it's easy. It's just stonking hot the entire time. During winter, though, it goes hot to cold to moist to hot again, and then cold maybe.
That word.
Moist.
Moist.
Moist. So yeah, that's pretty my week. Aside from a bit of picking away at Fate Grand Order for the latest events, probably the wrong word. Gibbering nonsense is probably better.
It's got Paul
Come on,
Bunyan.
it's great.
Poor
Poor Paul Bunyan.
Bunyan. She's so adorable. And shouldn't
And
be, and
ginormous.
it's weird. So Vol, your week, sir.
I don't have much to talk about. I'm not actually sure what I was doing with my free time. I know that I had quite a few late nights at work, but I can't work out why I seem to have managed to make it all the way to the end of the week without doing anything at all. Really, I'm not quite sure what's going on here, and it's not like there was a major event in FGO or anything that was eating up my free time. But yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on there. Though, as Vern mentioned, All the Statesman mini event for Independence Day has rolled around, which is just a story-based event, so it takes more real life time than it does AP, generally speaking. Unless you're Aristeele, who just skips all story events.
For events, I usually skip them the first time through and go back and watch them when I have time, just to get them done.
But yeah, this is the tie-in event with the Learning with Manga, accompanying manga that goes with Fate Grand Order and deviated very, very rapidly from any semblance of educational intent.
Deviant is right.
It lasted a whole, quarter second.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of absurd, and it has not heard of a fourth wall, and in fact there may not be any walls anywhere, because most of the dialogue that you're capable of is the storyline roughly seems to be that there's a sort of an incidental overlap has started to happen between the Learning with Manga worlds, Chaldea, and your one. And the one in Learning with Manga is very self-aware, I suppose. Although self-aware seems to be underplaying it, if I just say that.
Yes.
I'm not sure what you would say instead, though.
When characters are actively swearing at the gacha.
Yeah.
As a matter of course.
And because the two worlds are overlapping, sometimes your player point of view character is inclined to say things that are more typical of Ryo's Gudako character from Learning with Manga, such as your tendency in this event to refer to MASH as my little eggplant.
Yeah, and get rather inappropriate with other characters, to put it nicely.
Yeah, and there's a very amusing sudden imagination spot of Siegfried.
I'm rather actually worried that it does give a silhouette of your protagonist, but because I use the male avatar, it came up with Gudeo in there.
I don't know if it comes up with. I don't know whether it comes up with Gudako or not if you're playing as the female one.
Okay, but Gudeo is as bad as Gudako is. Gudeo's worse.
I think he's bad in a different way.
Yeah.
I think he's more monomaniacal. He's focused on exactly one thing.
That being Astolfo.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not very shy about anything along those lines either.
Yeah, male protagonist in Learning with Manga is basically a parody of all of Astolfo's fans.
Yeah.
Can somebody get me male protag from Learning With's number? I need to call him. I got an Astolfo I need to send him.
That's okay. Just call your nearest jail. He's in there.
Usually, yeah. Because most of the stuff that he attempts to engage in is not legal.
Not remotely.
Might be legal in Canada.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I don't have much to talk about in that vein, since the all the Statesman event is sort of a quiet period, it only rewards a 1-star after all.
Yeah.
As far as welfare servants go, not a
Pretty
bad
good
1-star. Not a bad 1-star at all. Like, as far as 1-stars go, Bunyan's a pretty good 1-star, but it's still a 1-star and will die in 1 to 2 hits from anything because of low stats.
But AoE Buster up and crit up.
Yeah. If all you want to do is trigger the abilities and then have her keel over, that's it's gonna work. It's gonna work for you. You can do that.
Fastest Noble Phantasm animation in the game.
Yes, that's a play on learning with Manga Guruko's obsession with getting them to put a skip Noble Phantasm button in the game, which is something that the creators have said they will never do because they feel like having to watch the Noble Phantasm is part of what attaches you to a character, basically.
The first time, maybe.
The real reason is it makes you have to waste time watching it, and therefore you can't just power grind your way through everything and run out of stuff to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are other gacha that fold on that sort of thing, and they have like auto battle options and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's like 4 bridges way too far for FGO. Like FGO, they want you to spend time watching those things because the Noble Phantasm is part of really what makes the character the character. It's been like that a long time because it used to be that everybody pretty much had the same attack animations. There was nothing characteristic about them.
Yeah.
So
Hogakyo looks so much better now, though.
It does. It's not like weirdly floating out in the black void.
Yeah.
Which always confused me a little bit.
Her extra attack is not just more simple gunshots, and her gunshots are now distinguished between each other and depending on the card type.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
but you've got to go to a lot more effort to get the Hogekioi, though.
You got to get the extra attack, and it's only a chance for it to proc on the extra attack.
Yeah, most characters have a couple of things that they can say on the attack. But yeah, so in the Japanese server, the next Guda Guda Honoji event has launched, and they have, as usual, they brought out a bunch of new servants. The new welfare is Lancer Nagao Kagatora, who's otherwise known as Uesugi Kenshin from the Warring States period in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
The warlord who led Ichigo. And is, of course, number 1 is a saber face. Number 2 is more or less in the same pose as the standard Gudako sprite is.
Oh dear.
And number 3 is a female, obviously.
Because face.
Because boys are edgy.
Yes. Well, it's not. It's a little bit, very, very slightly more credible, because there is a theory that Uesugi Kenshin may have been a woman. I don't think personally that's very likely, but it's not impossible. I don't think it's very likely simply because Kenshin was an incredibly powerful warlord, and there are very few female incredibly powerful warlords, and it's not all because they were disguising their gender. But there is a certain amount of historical basis for it. For instance, his campaigns were all planned around him having a day off for stomach cramps once a month.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, he also to it.
And he never married. He never had any children. He never had any recorded lovers either, and was allowed access to the ladies' chambers in the palace that he lived in, which was really unusual for a warlord. It was normally off limits to men categorically.
Okay.
So there is a certain amount of supporting evidence, but I think most sources say that he died of esophageal cancer. So that could be linked to the stomach cramps, but there are like 1 or 2 sources where instead of the words for esophageal cancer, the equivalent in whatever text, there are some that say uterine cancer, and that's something that men typically don't die of.
Typically, no.
But
So-
yeah, so it's not an impossible gender bend.
This
It's-
time.
It's
This
semi-plausible, as in there was a theory about Uesugi Kenshin being a woman which preceded Fate. So that's about the best you're going to get. Have
I
they
don't-
ever done a reverse gender bend? Ever? Just out of
Um,
curiosity, can you think of any?
I'm thinking, flipping through my head. I don't think so.
no, I can't
I'm not
think
really.
of any.
It wouldn't surprise me on account of that. Doesn't really sell quite so well. But yeah. So yeah. Kenshin is a welfare 4-star arts archer. Not archer. Lancer. Arts lancer. Eyeballing her stats. She seems pretty decent, middle of the roadie, but with really good hit counts and generally good stats. Like has an arts card boost, has a absorption boost, has a really decent sort of broad base group buff, which buffs attack, crit damage, and star gen rate. Has an evasion to keep her alive. Like she's just super well rounded. I haven't seen anybody put her to the test to against other similar servants to see how she fares in the Japanese environment. I don't know the servants very well in that environment, so she might be redundant or something, but it's a welfare, everybody's going to have her. She's going to be Noble Phantasm level 5 for everybody and is a single target Arts Lancer.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's going to work out well for a lot of people who don't have somebody for that slot. I don't have an Arts Lancer, so it'd be useful to me. Although as far as Lancers go, I use Kirihime for pretty much everything. Because holy cow, 5-hit busters do a lot of damage. They generate a lot of Noble Phantasm. They generate a lot of stars.
Yeah.
Kirihime Lancer seems to be able to use her buster cards for pretty much everything. So other servants that were released, 3-star Berserker Mori Nagayoshi, servant of the Oda clan, if I recall correctly. I suppose he's basically like, I don't know, it gives me the impression of a buff Hakumen in his design.
He looks weird.
Yeah, he does look kind of weird, but he's got 3 radically different sprites. So,
I only saw the one in the power armor with his helmet off.
Wait, what now?
There isn't one. There isn't one of him in power armor with his helmet off.
Maybe
None of his sprites look like that.
Maybe it was an image. Hang on, I find it. But yeah, keep going.
He's got sort of like metal gray power armor type dealy, and he's got like traditional samurai garb dealy, and he's got like the super defensified.
It was the banner image that I saw.
Well, it's a banner image.
So,
It's not what his in-game sprite looks like. It's just character art. And he's got another sort of fancy white power armory / fantasy armor type dealy as well. But yeah, I don't know much about how good he is. He's a 3-star Berserker. It's been a while since they put one in the game, I guess. He's got an ignore invincibility Noble Phantasm, so it's not like he doesn't have a use since he's a single target Berserker. Are there single target Berserkers at 3-star level? Is Lubu single target? I can't even remember.
I don't think so. He might be.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, he'll be available to everybody being a 3-star. Since he's not part of the normal story, presumably he will just be available to everybody, I would think. The 5-star, the one that everybody is talking about for a variety of different reasons, is Demon King Nobunaga. So this is sort of like the Avenger version of Nobunaga, who starts off in her first form looking just almost the same as the Nobunaga we're used to, and then goes through different stages as she radically different sprites as she ascends to the final one, which is a fully grown Demon King Nobunaga with red hair and all of the figure that you would expect Although it
obviously-
doesn't have the enormous bazookas that you usually get from Type Moon, largely because her niche is to be a sort of a less well endowed character. It wouldn't make sense if she suddenly became, a ginormous boobs monster like some of the servants are.
They get a bit ridiculous with the memories sometimes.
But yeah, so the first two versions of Nobu, basically the animations focus around the use of the minigun that Nobunaga obviously had in history.
That sounds accurate.
The final sprite of his animations, the animations are focused around the demon magic type theme. But
casting Marincaran on enemies.
another new servant with sky high hit counts, which is something that really bothers me, as I've ranted to Ari about in the past, that it seems like as time goes on they just increase the hit count. Like for instance, this Demon King Nobunaga is 4465 for Quick Arts
Wow.
Buster X. That's monstrous.
Does she have a star booster ability as well?
I don't hope not.
I really hope not.
She's
It's okay,
she's got natural star regen.
Yeah,
Natural star regen skill.
She
So she'll
gens
just
10
generate
stars a
into
turn.
The problem is she's generally quite bad. Like, she's got a really bad reputation. And the reason is, if you're a 5-star Avenger, you have to be either Jolta or Dante's. Either, the ultimate farmer or, the Buster Maniac. You can't not be one of those. Because there are only two things for Avengers to do, which is to pile drive a boss into the ground or to be the best farmer. And those two niches are already occupied. If they made her more powerful than Jolta, her power would be way too high for the game. It would break the meta. If they made her a better farmer than Dante's has already broken the farming meta. If you can use a Dante's loop with Skadi, you've already, won the farming game forever.
Working on it.
So, yeah, I think that it's a bad decision to make Demon King Nobunaga a Avenger, because the Avenger class is basically toxic now. Like, from a game design perspective, the Avenger class is toxic, and that's their fault. That's their fault. But, there's nothing you can do about it.
They undershot the first Avenger at first with Dante's, and then they overshot with Jolter, and then they released a servant that went back and retroactively busted Dante's.
Dante's was solid before, but, in Japan, he's just broken as anything. When it comes to wiping out a wave, there isn't anybody better. But, so they sort of really toxified that class, and I don't know how you fix that problem from a game design perspective. Like, the only one that's sort of neutral is Lobo, and that's only because he's quick. There's not somebody else to try and steal that crown from him. So if you look at the other non-Lobo, non-Dante's, non-Jolta occupants of that class, you've got Gorgon, who would be solid, except she's remembered as being awful, and the reason she's remembered as being awful is because she's a Buster Avenger, and I mean, what are you going to have to compare her with? She's an AoE Buster Avenger, so she's going to be worse at busting things than Jolta and worse at AoEing than Dante. So how can you win? What victory is there for Gorgon there?
Yeah,
she doesn't have a support niche or anything like that to back her up. Everybody who picks Gorgon picks her out of character loyalty.
Yep.
She can sometimes stun dudes. Sometimes.
Sometimes.
You can't even take her as the edgy option. Like, Dante's has edge wrapped up.
Well, and then if you look at the other ones, you've got Angramonyo. He's a joke servant. He's a joke servant. Salieri's Salieri's quite well liked, but he's a 3-star, so he's just never going to sit atop the meta. Like, people like him, they think he's pretty cool, they think his sprite's pretty cool, they think he does interesting things for the most part, but generally speaking, he's not a meta changer. So that entire class, the entire servant class is completely bracketed by Dante's and Jolta, and I don't know how they're going to fix it. I don't think they can at this point. They made a mistake too viciously. Like, you release Jolta and then you release Merlin. You release Dante's and then you release Skadi. Like, you're just doing it wrong. I'm sorry. That's not how game design works. You need to keep everything in perspective, and they didn't. So, yeah, I feel bad for the Avenger class servants because they're always going to be standing in Jolta's shadow. It's not like Jolta's the be-all, end-all, and neither is Dante's, but they're so good at what they specialize in that you're going to get compared to them. Unless they release like a support arts Avenger, there's not really going to be ever an Avenger that's really important.
Arch
Sure,
doesn't
exactly what
seem
you'd
to
use
fit
that for, though. Anyway,
Arch doesn't seem to fit the class fantasy of an archer.
Let alone support. Let alone support. Can you even imagine the concept of a support Avenger?
yeah.
Like, that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't fit the class fantasy.
Isn't
Class fantasy.
I might be completely off base here, but isn't the Avengers' role in the Grail War to shut it down?
They don't have a war. They don't have a role.
Okay.
They're an abnormality. You're not supposed to ever summon an Avenger. It's a mistake.
Yeah.
Something done gone wrong if one shows up.
They're character. They're in all individuals which have a disturbed psychology, different to a berserker's disturbed psychology, in that they are forced by their Avenger container to constantly think about the subject about which they want to get revenge. So it's a type of specialized madness enhancement which doesn't come with the perks.
Right.
So it's generally speaking a disadvantageous class. It's sort of gameplay story segregation that the in-game Avengers are so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so the as servants they have tended to either be overwhelming or underwhelming. So, but the thing is, everybody still wants Demon King Nobu anyway. Everybody keeps making Marin Curran jokes.
Yeah.
Because of her alleged similarities to certain Ice Queen.
Doesn't give those vibes by herself, and like until she gets the bodysuit, and then we get and then we compare her to P4 or P4A Mitsuru. Then it makes sense.
That cloak.
Both redheads that wear a black bodysuit.
Yeah. So as usual, while she will not win any battles in terms of meta, she will win plenty of battles in terms of inciting player lust, which is way more effective at selling things.
Yeah.
So yeah, that appears to be her role in the world.
This is the waifu battle simulator.
No wonder feminists are so mad all the time.
Oh dear.
It works. Anyway, what else? I've struggled through and completed reading the two most recent books I have in No Game No Life light novel. I started to realize the more I got through this particular arc, what a nightmare it must have been to translate these from the Japanese. Because the structure of the game that takes place, well, it's not even fair to say the structure of the game, because this current arc is sort of like games upon games within games inside games. Like Inception levels deep.
Yeah, headache just hearing that.
It's and everything basically seems to turn on carefully implanted literalisms it's like monkey paw style in the very obtuse set of rules that they devised before having their memories of devising the rules erased as part of the game.
Oh dear.
So while all of the rules are unbelievably obtuse in various ways, nobody can remember why they wanted them that way, or which particular members of the group of players are responsible for particular rules, which ones were designed to work for their advantage, that sort of thing. And then, of course, multiple games get launched along the way, and then there's several meta games being played by different characters, and my goodness, everything turns upon basically wordplay and being incredibly convoluted. So it must have been an ordeal to translate, because you've got to somehow retain the loopholes in wording across languages.
Yeah, that's easier said than done.
But yeah, so for most of it, I enjoyed it in the same way that you have to enjoy No Game No Life, which is to be largely baffled most of the time and just hope that you'll understand where they're coming from as you get to the part where it'll start to be revealed, and invariably to Steph, because the poor girl.
She's such a Steph.
I feel very bad for Steph. Generally speaking, it is extremely easy to sympathize with Steph. Like in any other world, she would be a deeply admired, even idolized princess character, because she's just a really good person. She's incredibly intelligent. She's incredibly good looking, and she's domestically skilled, even though she's a princess, and has all of the good things in her favor, except it just so happens that she's not the top dog. The sovereigns are Sora and Shiro, who are a mess.
She's such a Steph.
Yeah, and she's a Steph. And it's made abundantly clear that after being constantly thrashed at every game on the planet and on other planets as well by Sora and Shiro, once they became sovereigns, that Steph can pretty much wreck any other humanity at any game you care to name, because she's just been put through the ringer. But she's still, hopeless against Sora and Shiro, and doesn't even recognize that she's a good gamer because she's only ever used to being humiliated. So it's nice the once in a great while that you get to see her accidentally strut her stuff and demolish somebody because she's been, Wuju Mountain training on a permanent basis for the entire series. So she's at this point rapidly approaching savant level without realizing it. But you don't get to see much of that most of the time because she's just being made the butt of everyone's jokes. But I feel bad for her. She didn't do anything to deserve this.
And the boobs of everybody's jokes, and all other nudity of everybody's jokes.
Yeah. Stripping Steph seems to be pretty much the go-to gag for everybody in the setting.
Someone's got to be the fan service, I suppose.
But yeah, so the arc concerns basically the attempt to get Old Deus on side, which are the highest race in the setting, and have been basically held to be untouchable because, number one, they are the closest things to gods that are not actually the true god of gaming himself, and number two, you can't beat them as a race because all they have to do is refuse to participate in naming an agent plenipotentiary. And so they have not been participating in the games. So in a sense, the Covenants just don't touch them. They just withdrew from the world. So they are trying to basically drag them back down to Earth as the purpose of this scheme. But yeah, I enjoyed most of the book, except it gets to the end and then they do the same thing that hacks me off about pretty much every fantasy story, as they start trying to engage in ill-educated dime store philosophy.
Yeah.
And in the end, it's like, I'm not a philosopher. I only have the sketchiest knowledge of basic schools of philosophy, like to the extent that I would have thought would be general knowledge for everybody, but apparently it's not. And it's like every aspect of their dime store philosophy sounds like every other dime store philosophy attempt made in a light novel or in any other Western novel. Particularly Western novels seem to have it bad, since the West as a whole appears to have completely abdicated its sense of anything except crass rationalist materialism. So it's like abundantly evident that the author has completely dismissed Plato's theory of forms and all of the philosophies that have proceeded from it in favor of rationalist materialism simply being crowned as correct. So the entire but the thing is that none of the sort of character philosophies match the foundational philosophies that they talk about, because everything is still shonen style. It's about, ultimately every shonen story is a will to power story, right? Like, and shonen, everything is accomplished by wanting it enough. It's very idealized fantasy in that way. But the problem is that that's a radical mismatch for rationalist materialism, which says that everything is matter in motion. and everything is therefore inevitable. Either luck or inevitability. There's nothing else. So there's sort of a radical mismatch between their idealism and their sort of metaphysics, and they just fall headfirst into every ridiculous trap. It's like if the author had read any Plato at all, if the author had read about any Plato at all, he would have been able to write more coherently than this. But yeah, they've based their metaphysics on rational materialism, but then given everybody souls, and it doesn't make sense. So, yeah, it's a niggle that is the sort of niggle that only annoys me, and nobody else on the planet is annoyed by it. But since I'm the one reading the book, I'm allowed to complain about it.
Yeah, you gotta understand. Most people don't understand anything about philosophy or personal beliefs at all, and how they will or will not contradict.
Most people's eyes just tend to glaze over when you even start mentioning it.
I think it should be mandatory in schools to study logic.
I think we've got a lot more things that need to be made mandatory, like common sense.
I think we need to stop studying a few other things first.
I think that common sense can emerge from an understanding of logic.
True.
Because when you study logic, it basically teaches you how to think in a consistent fashion, as opposed to just feeling everything, which is the problem with, you know, the millennial and Zoomer generations, is that everybody's concerned more about feeling things than they are about understanding things. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm old. Get off my lawn.
Wanting education to actually educate? No.
I don't think that I've really done much in the way of playing Vidya this week. I did try out the Iceborne beta briefly.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't spend a huge amount of time with it. I was impressed and not impressed by turns. I didn't take time to fight Beatotus, but apparently he's just a comical joke.
He's kind of goofy, yeah.
Yeah, like he's just really, really, really weak. Banbaro, I guess Banbaro was sort of, he seems Baroth. He seems like Baroth, basically. Yeah. He's Baroth crossed with Diablos, in that he charges and then runs away from you a lot, which is annoying to me.
Very annoying. I fought him, and the whole time I spent more time chasing him around than actually fighting him.
Yeah, I presume you're meant to, I don't know, be skilled or something and stop him from moving, but I'm not good at the game, so... he's a little bit too kinetic for my taste, but he's not really challenging in the conventional sense. You just have to hope that he doesn't get a lucky hit while he's charging about, because you pretty much just have to wait him out until he calms down and then beat the crap out of him.
Yeah, to be fair, his really big attacks hit like an absolute truck, so you've got to watch out for that.
Tigrex, on the other hand, is an angry man.
Very, very angry.
And I've heard from a number of Monster Hunter veterans that Tigrex was never this angry before.
No, he was not.
Like, Tigrex has a reputation for being an extremely angry, mindlessly aggressive creature. Like, he's aggression personified in the series.
Yes.
But it seems that World Tigrex just cranks that up to 11.
This is a Tigrex that is now actually angry.
Yeah, before he was actually chill. That's what we didn't realize.
He was comparatively chill, yes.
Yeah. But I didn't manage to kill him. I only made one serious attempt on him, but I didn't manage to kill him. I got timed out.
Likewise.
I think that he's handleable, but I think that he's probably, in terms of difficulty, on tier with an Elder Dragon or Tempered Elder Dragon.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's been buffed up a bit just for the beta. But
it could be. They do that sometimes, but because he's not the guy on the cover, the way Nergigante was, I'm not convinced that they did that.
Yeah, it's a bit of an odd choice if that is the case.
Because Nergigante was a little bit quicker and nastier in the beta than he was on live, but the reality is you had to fight Nergigante in the most garbage equipment imaginable in the beta of Monster Hunter World.
That is holds true for the for the Tigrex fight. Like, your gear
I don't know if it holds true or not
for him.
I don't know if that's true or not. I can't tell by looking at it because it's all flagged as rank 9. So,
Yeah.
I guess this is better than everything I have.
Nope.
But yeah, so Tygex is an angry boy. He has severe anger management issues and has no interest in managing.
Nope.
But he's a fun fight if you don't mind being attacked by a living drift car with teeth.
Yeah.
He's pretty much what I expected. I didn't run into Nagakuga, so I didn't fight against him.
I think he's in there somewhere.
He's in the forest loitering.
Okay, he just
But you
lurks.
I've heard two things. I've heard number one, he's loitering in the forest and you might run into him. And number two, like you know how Beatotus is, there's no quest to fight Beatotus, but
Yep.
you can trip over him instead. And number two, I've also heard that that sometimes when you try and select the mission you want to play, if you've cleared the other ones, a Nagakuga one will pop.
Oh, okay. Unfortunately, we kind of came late to the beta, so we didn't get a chance to really do much with it.
Yeah, people are still posting footage though.
I think there's some
there
sort
must be
of
a special beta access that you can have if you're special.
Yes, there's a mediator or influence beta out there.
Anyway, as far as the weapon changes go, the great sword in use, honestly, I didn't find it change very much. I'm not really the sort of person who cares about trying to inject random slinger shots into the middle of my combos.
Mm-hmm.
It does feel good getting rewarded to hit with both parts of True Strike.
Oh yes. So I tried out the gun lance, and it's pretty much identical, except you now have the option to stuff your slinger ammo into your gun lance. What I found,
which is just weird.
Yeah, the idea
like,
is...
I don't know about, for those who are not familiar with real firearms, I suggest you don't do that.
That is, generally not good for the health of your firearm.
Or you.
Because
it tends to cause them to explode.
But the idea is it enhances the Wyvern stake, or whatever it was. I keep forgetting what it's actually called. But what it indulges is once you spike a monster with it, it will leave a bomb attached to the monster, which is very strange because you're supposed to shell it to detonate it. It's very selective about what actually counts as shelling the bomb. And in a lot of cases, I've only actually been able to get the bomb to detonate by hitting it with another Wyvern spike.
That's weird.
Yeah. There's also
Are you
been
sure
cases...
you just went missing?
Maybe? There's been a few cases, actually, where I've spiked the bomb, and it's kind of just hung in midair as well. And
we're supposed to embed into the model. This probably hasn't been fine-tuned for every model yet.
Yeah. And it does some very strange things against Fat Jagras. If you hit him on the belly with it while he's fat, and then he throws up or shrinks, that the bomb will kind of sit a few feet out from his belly. Which means when he's walking around, the thing just drops into the ground.
I would be surprised if they actually get around to fixing something like that, but before release. But hopefully they do.
Yeah, it is only a problem with Jagras. Like nobody really expects anything serious to come out of Jagras. If they have Zamtrios in there though, then they're going to need to fix it.
Everybody wants Zamtrios to be in there.
They want their Sharky boy.
But yeah, they announced Barioth.
Yep.
And they have talked about how there is going to be a monster that hangs from cave ceilings.
Which is
but they won't say who.
Which is either Kezu or Giganox, unless they're going to go.
Or it could be a new one.
Yeah, a new one.
Most people are relatively convinced that Zinogre will be in there. I'm not sure why. I don't know what the logic is.
The logic, I think, is that he shares a skeleton with Behemoth.
Right. I'll take your word for that because I don't know what he looks like.
Yeah. But I think a good chunk of that is also just wishful thinking.
I don't know. Is he popular? I don't really know.
He's pretty popular, yeah.
I've seen footage of one particular fight against a superpowered Zinogre, which was just absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
because he would start charging up, and everybody in the group would go berserk trying to knock him out of it, because if he did charge up, then the odds of getting an insta-jib went through the roof.
Yeah, he's another angry boy.
Most of the monsters seem to be angry boys these days.
This is an angry boy that has thunderbugs living in his fur. So if he's standing around and he shakes, he's going to end up with electrical beetles everywhere. So have fun with that.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how I feel about the clutch claw. Like to me, well, it's cool and all. Like, it's cool. It's definitely cool.
Definitely cool.
But it feels superfluous in a way. It's like, oh, this is another thing you've got to do to be optimal. Like, you've got to keep using the clutch claw every time there's a clutch claw opening, or you're playing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the moment a monster starts to flee, it is optimal to always clutch claw onto them. Because as long as they're fleeing, they won't throw you off. So you get a free hit every time. If you're in position and you can clutch claw a fleeing monster. And I don't like things like that. I don't like when there's like, oh, well, this is the right thing to do always, so you've got to do it or you're being bad.
Mm-hmm.
As far as anybody can tell, that's just categorically the thing you have to do.
Yeah. I do appreciate the riding mechanic, so you can jump onto a small monster and just tell it, okay, go chase whatever I'm supposed to be hunting, and while it's running, you can do all your buffing up and things.
Yeah, I haven't used it because I'm paranoid about what could possibly go wrong.
If you're not paying attention, the monster will actually just walk straight up to the thing you're hunting and kind of just sit at its feet. What you're supposed to do is do a leaping dismount when it gets to that point, and it does a ridiculous amount of mounting damage from what I can tell. If you don't, though, the monster will just kind of look down at you and then stomp on you.
Which is what they do, given half a chance anyway. So.
Yeah. And don't bother with the leaping dismount for Tigrex, he'll just snap you out of the air.
That seemed to be what happened every time I got any air around Tigrex.
He's kind of a jerk like that.
Yeah, I managed to hack off his tail within the first couple minutes of fighting him, but then I realized that they just made him a much smaller target, and it was very, very hard to deal with him after that. But it seems like the way you're supposed to deal with him, based on what I observed, was to beat up his claws first, so he's more likely to screw up his drifting.
Yeah, that's what I can tell.
Because that's the only way you're going to get time to fight him.
Yeah, have fun with that. Because he doesn't hold still long enough.
Fate Grand Order Twitter account just announced the summer revival is going to be starting on July the 12th.
Yeah, I thought I saw that earlier today. On the,
I didn't.
The wiki.
I haven't I logged in early, and I haven't logged in since. I didn't see that on the wiki myself, actually. Let's have a look.
Where did I put that? Oh, close the browser. Never mind.
No, it's not. It's not on the wiki.
Oh,
it's not on the
was
wiki.
I looking?
There are only 4 on the wiki, which are Agartha, the second Agartha banner, all the statesmen, and the anniversary event.
Okay.
Speaking of which, the rumor is that the GSSR will go live tonight. I don't think that's actually based on anything though, but it could happen.
Anything interesting in there?
That's the everybody.
it's the lucky dip one, the dangerous one.
Oh dear!
Let's see.
It's everyone.
Yeah, that's everyone. All of the 5 stars, all at once in one pool.
This sounds inadvisable.
So there are lots of bad ends in here. Lots of very bad ends.
We can check after the show, I guess.
You can get something good, but odds are you're going to get awful.
Oh, me and Vol are both getting John.
Or Shirazad, or something like that. It's going to be awful no matter which way you slice it. There's so many bad things could happen. Like, there are some good things that could happen, but there are a lot of bad things that can happen. Like, I don't really want... Like, if I just flick through the list quickly. Arthur Pendragon, bad against everything but beast. Attila, vanilla, hasn't received any strengthenings. Artoria won't be any good until she gets her strengthening. Okita would be good because I don't have a good single target quick saber, or any 5-star sabers actually. Nero Bride also be good, semi-support. Musashi, good buster saber. Mordred, I know that Ari desperately wants Momo, but I don't really
want Momo because I like Momo. I don't want Momo because she's any good.
Voyage Key, like I've got the servants to use Voyage Key. I don't need Voyage Key, but it'd be nice to have her since she's hard to get. Arjuna would be a disappointment. since he's like the worst of the good 5-star archers, which just still makes him monstrously powerful. It's just that he's a disappointment. Squirtoria, be nice to get another rank of Squirtoria because she's one of those ones that gets way stronger with additional Noble Phantasm.
Oh dear.
Ishtar is just a mediocre beat stick that's slightly worse than Gilgamesh, but she still has her use because she's got damage that scales with overcharge.
She is not just slightly worse; she is quite a bit worse than Gil. But
well, there are situations in which she's not a lot worse, like single target situations. She can sometimes come to the party there because of her ability to power up her busters and then chain into subsequent ones with crit. Like as a buster crit funnel, she's better than Gilgamesh. She's just worse at supporting buster crit in general. Like along every line, she's worse than Gilgamesh, but the amount by which she is worse varies. The Dits, the less said about her, the better. She's worse than a 3-star.
Let's not go there.
Gilgamesh is OP, but I don't have much affection for him as a character. But I wouldn't turn up my nose at him because he's free Noble Phantasm, free stars, and free massive amounts of damage. Zashu.
I'm about to say you've been saying Zashu for months now. What do you mean you're not a fan of Gil?
It's only funny because of the frog.
Which
is something that makes no sense out of context.
Moriarty is interesting, but I'm not really interested in using him. Tesla is also interesting, but I'm not really not really interested in using him. Lancer Artoria is bad. Just like this, she's bad in the sense that she is so super generic that she's not useful for anything. Enkidu and Kana both have their niches. So does Shisho.
Enkidu will forever be a good
Summer Tamamo is quite powerful, extremely good against males. A very like the superior version of Uriali in some respects. Not all respects though. She's not quite that great. Useful for a bunch of stuff because she's just very powerful straight up front. Brynhilda is not awesome, but she's also like the rarest servant in the game. So it's novel if you can get Brynhilda. Iskandar's bad. He's just a beat stick. He doesn't do anything else. Ozymandias, one of the best semi-support riders in the game since he does brutal damage and provides really good team support.
And Imperial Privilege doesn't miss when you have Ozzy.
That's true. Imperial Privilege doesn't always miss. Like after you've blown that buff, it is going to miss. But Quetzalcoatl, I just don't really like Quetzalcoatl, but she's pretty decent. Maeve is like a disappointment. Big on thought. Hogeki Yoi, we've discussed plenty of times. She's Hogeki Yoi. She can survive Gilgamesh sometimes. That's about it. Good for farming. Cleo, very powerful AoE buster assassin. Starting to be recognised as such, since she hasn't been around quite as long as Jack for people to get tired of her. Jack is Jack. Ridiculous stats. Just ridiculous stats. My goodness. Shoot-in, I would like to get another shoot-in because her Noble Phantasm is so limp that she really needs the help of a second Noble Phantasm rank. Mysterious Heroine X is just not good because she's a assassin with a niche specializing against sabers, which is nonsensical.
Yeah.
So she's great for those rare rider saber combo fights, I guess.
To be fair, nothing about that makes sense.
No, nothing about her makes sense, but she's got a lot of fans.
Yeah.
King Hassan is King Hassan, the buster assassin, the only buster assassin. Ilya is my main DPS caster, so it'd be nice to get another one of her. Sanzang is the better DPS caster, but I don't really want her because then I would have 2 DPS casters.
And neither of which coming out soon.
I don't care about Nero. I'm not planning to roll for her. Opinions are very divided on how good Nero is, how good Summer Nero is. There are some people that think she is the bee's knees, and some people think that she's a complete pile of trash.
But the Summer Nitocris is on her banner.
That's true. However, I don't think that there's. The thing is that I would say that Summer Nero is slightly better than Ilya and Sanzang in aggregate, but I don't think it's by a meaningful amount. I think you're looking at the difference between a grade plus and a grade minus. It's not even a whole grade. So
I just want to make a KKK Nitocris joke.
Yeah, you always want to make a KKK Nitocris joke. I don't even understand your compulsion, but I'm not a southerner. So, yeah. Where was I? Waiver. Like, I mean, you can't go wrong getting a waiver unless you've already got a waiver, and I don't. Tamamo, I do have a Tamamo. I desperately don't want to get another Tamamo because she's one of those servants that gets nothing. Yeah, she gets nothing out of her next rank of Noble Phantasm. It's like getting a booby prize. Sherazade, the less said, the better.
Is she that bad?
Oh, where are the jokes I had? They're in a file somewhere.
Oh, no.
Merlin is another one that doesn't overly benefit from a second rank. He's a little bit better than Jean and Tamamo, but only by just enough that you can say that he's better, not by substantially, because it just affects how much healing he does, I believe.
Yeah, his stars are overcharged. So
Da Vinci, a very solid, sort of the middle of A rank type of DPS caster. So, like, and since she's an arts one, like, there's a room for her in my roster, unlike some of the other single target DPS casters. Vlad, Berserker, used to be an absolute king in the arts meta. Now, not so much. But, you know, I would consider that to be an pick. Ku Alter, only good if you're intending to solo stuff. Pretty much that's what he's for. He's for brutally soloing things. Kentoki, a very, very bad pull. Because he's just a servant that needs help badly. He's just not good. It's like he was designed in the period where servants like Arjuna and Altera and Artoria Classic were considered good. You know, where all you needed was decent stats and a vanilla kit and you could be good. That's where Kentoki Berserker lives. Nightingale is like when you need icing on top of the Merlin cake. You just want, I think I can make that Buster buff a little bit bigger.
I think I got her last time. Last time there was a guaranteed SSR like this.
Yeah, she's the one of those weird support berserkers. She's very usable. She's worse than Merlin, but alongside a Merlin, you can really mess some people up if you're running pure Buster. Mysterious Hero and X Alter. I wouldn't mind getting another one of her since her banners are rare, and you know I keep her around as a Noble Phantasm beast pretty much when I need somebody class agnostic to come out the gate and kill somebody. That's usually who I turn to. Hijikata don't really care about. Mama Raiko, it would be nice to have her since she's probably overall has the most raw grunt out of all the 5-star berserkers. But
she got that strengthening quest in JP too.
Yeah, she's pretty much a monster, but I already have somebody for that slot who is incredibly bad at it, but it's Kiyohime who I grailed to 90. So I don't really need Raiko, but I wouldn't turn up my nose at her either.
But you could take Kyo and Raiko.
Huh?
Yeah, I could do that. And Raiko.
I could do that.
Kyo, Raiko.
If I could take Kyo, Raiko, and then level up Serenity, and I could have the whole Stalker trio.
Ugh. Run away.
But Amakusa. I have failed on 3 banners to get Amakusa.
It's not happening.
No, it's not happening. But it would be nice. I can dream, can't I?
You can.
Jean, yeah. We all know I'm going to get another Jean. That's what's going to happen. Because that would be incredibly anticlimactic. Dante's.
My boy.
I don't need Dante's. He would be nice to have. I've, on a number of occasions, thought, man, I wish I had Dante's because I want a class agnostic AoE bomb. But I don't have that.
That thing hits like a wet noodle until you put some levels into it and get some NP level on him. So you really need more than one to make him hit at all.
In a lot of cases, I don't care about that. What I want is stability because I always play long strategies. I don't really play. I want to explode everything in the first turn. Jolter, like I'm really not enthused about Jolter. I rolled on a Jolter banner once and it was incredibly unfulfilling. So
that's
Kiara. I don't want Kiara.
Kiara's a thought. Nobody wants a thought.
Yeah, Kiara's a thought. I don't really want Kiara. I don't. She's not only is she a thought. I don't really think she's any good. So
she's also a world-class thought. She like literally thoughts all over the whole world.
Yeah, she's the beast of thoughts, pretty much.
You have to
Like,
compare it
I don't
to
know.
the Queen of Thoughts. Is she worse
There are a
than
lot of
Maeve?
people.
Yes,
Oh,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes. She's like who Maeve wants to be when Maeve grows up. But
that's terrifying.
yeah. But
Melt's cool.
and Melt, I'm starting to get more and more use out of Melt as I get used to seeing what an opportunity to use Melt looks like, and she's actually starting to do real work for me now that I know when to use her. As soon as she gets her strengthening that gets rid of the turn delay on a Noble Phantasm buff, she'll be a very common pick for me. But I can only use her at those times where I know that I can proceed predictably. Because she just does a lot of damage to a lot of classes. And if you know the class composition, you can go in knowing that, and that it's within her bailiwick to deal with. She just hits really hard on average sort of thing, like turn over turn over turn. You can use her also as a Noble Phantasm bomb to just cannon somebody out of existence if you are properly set up for it. So she's just a very good damage choice in general. She's not tough against anything, which is sort of annoying. So she's always taking modest damage, but yeah, I've gotten a lot of mileage out of her. She's done really well for me. She hasn't had any hero moments the way Martha has every second day. Still have not regretted 10 level 100ing her, since she just proceeded to punch the living crap out of everybody in the memorial quests, pretty much, except for the challenge quest. But
hero moments is pretty much what Ruler Martha does.
Yeah, she just beats the crap out of things. Like Tiamat had the crap beaten out of her. Ku Alter had the crap beaten out of him. Like everybody ends up getting the crap beaten out of them by Martha. Martha basically dominated Agartha for me. She dominated Babylonia for me. Like she's not regarded as being very good either. So like she's sort of middle of B, like square in the middle of B, along with a lot of other B things like Berserk a lot and like Gorgon, things that have their good points but are just not good overall. But I've gotten huge mileage out of her. Huh?
The car horn.
You seem to really be amused by Berserker noises.
Just Berserker really Lancelot.
Honk.
It just sounds like a car horn in FGO, and it's hilarious.
Whenever you say that, though, what I imagine, because I'm not familiar with the noises he makes. What I imagine when you say he sounds like a car horn is the noise that the Devilites and Spiral Knights make when you kill them.
Oh, that kind of tinny honking noise.
That honk honk.
Honk honk. Then they throw an office chair at you.
Yes, they do. Anyway, that little rant aside, I'll call an end to my week.
Okie doke. Let's go to a break since we're over an hour, and we'll be right back after some music. And we're back.
That was very quiet and unprojected.
Right.
Oh, yeah, it was too. Oh,
Very
you know what I actually
lethargic.
didn't do? Baffanada.
Yeah. What are we doing?
So yeah, the last thing I'll mention is that we ended the anime season, the last core.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't decided what I'm going to watch from the new season other than the obvious Type Moon. Like, of course. Like, was there ever a question?
Well, duh.
It's a really weak looking season for the most part. There's nothing really there to catch my eye, or maybe it's just the fact that Lord Elmalloy 2 Chronicles is just so overshadowing everything. Everything else looks banal by comparison. But
So,
yeah, there's not really much that's of particular note there.
Yeah. So along those lines, I'm actually trying out the Madman app as opposed to Crunchyroll because I mean it works for one, but I haven't really dug too deep into their library yet. So I think I'll use the new season to see how much of that they actually get.
Right. I guess I don't know. I didn't know they even had one. So.
It's called Anime Lab, I believe.
Oh, that's theirs?
Pretty sure that's theirs, yeah.
I thought that was Funimation's or something.
No, Funimation has one called.
Oh no, Funimation's is just like the Funimation one, right?
It's just Funimation or something, yeah.
They
do have
changed
a
the Funimation something a while ago, but it just says Funimation in it.
I do have an Anime Lab account, but it's not a paid one because it's very hard to find out what's in their catalog.
Yeah.
Their site is very impenetrable.
Their app isn't a whole lot better, admittedly, but hey, it's still kind of better than Crunchyroll.
I haven't tried their app. The only reason I resubbed to Crunchyroll was because they patched their PS4 app the moment after I sent them a blistering message about it. But which I expect that there were probably a very large number of blistering messages being sent in their direction.
To a bunch of talentless cretins.
Yeah, but the thing is, I really don't want to subscribe to more than one of these things.
No, I really don't either. Even if it's like you subscribe to one for 1 month and then you flip over and do another for another month.
Yeah, I'm thinking I might do that. I might give Anime Lab a go this month. Mm-hmm. Just cancel my Crunchyroll for a month. Go with Anime Lab instead. I don't know what the price is.
It's about the same.
Tell me. Okay. And the main reason for doing that, I think, is probably because Crunchyroll lineup is garbage.
It's pretty bad, especially if you're not in the US.
Have you by any chance tried out the PS4 app at all?
For
Crunchyroll? For Anime Lab.
Because
the Crunchyroll one is a steaming pile of garbage.
Like, you got to watch it on your VR headset.
Yeah.
Incidentally, I'm just going to log into my Crunchyroll and see if I've got infinite free Crunchyroll.
Oh, yeah.
I can't even remember how to disconnect from Crunchyroll now.
Let's see. Latest episode of Shield Hero.
I'll have to work it out after the show. But yeah, their lineup is not great. They've got some good things, but I think that they are actually behind the scenes. They are losing a lot of battles when it comes to getting exclusives. That's the impression I get, is that they're just not winning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems to be the case. Amazon stepped into the ring for a while and shook up their stuff before they dropped out.
I did not luck out and get infinite free Crunchyroll because
I still have it.
Their loading times are atrocious.
Yeah. I check my credit card statement every single month to see if there's a Crunchyroll charge because I'm paranoid about it. But no, I just have infinite Crunchyroll.
You just got infinite Crunchyroll.
Somehow.
It was reasons.
Their database is buggy as heck and everyone knows it.
Yeah.
Which is why some people get charged for Crunchyroll when they don't have Crunchyroll, and some people get Crunchyroll and they don't get charged. So
because logic.
Yeah. Because reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm not so fussed about the archives as I used to be now that I'm sort of more into. I've gotten back into buying Blu-rays because the only reason I stopped is because I didn't have any money because I didn't have a job. But then I realized recently that I actually have a job, so I can afford to buy things that I want. But yeah, the thing which keeps me away from Anime Lab largely is that their lineup is a bit anorexic. But Crunchyroll has headed sharply in that direction as well, of not having very much available really.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe I'll give Anime Lab a core worth of try. Although I might have a tinker with their app first to see if it's actually acceptable, because I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't, simply because nobody puts much effort into those things.
They tend not to, no.
But the big draw for Anime Lab, I suppose, is that I won't run up against the we say we've got it, but we're not going to show it in your country. Like, if you want to watch Overlord, you have to do it through Anime Lab if you live in New Zealand.
Yep.
I don't know if it's like that for Australia or for other places.
Hang on, Overlord. Let me see. I know it is for Konosuba.
Yeah, it was like that for Overlord on Crunchyroll. I don't know if it still is, but
let me see. Except Crunchyroll's search tool is appalling.
Once upon a time, I used to like the Funimation streaming service, and then they lost a lot of rights to stuff. This is even before the Vic story happened and all those biases come into play. And then they decided they were going to modernize everything and make everything okay for mobile and make their websites the exact same as their mobile site. And that went over like a lead balloon. And their site became totally unusable. So I unsubbed.
Apparently watching anime on your mobile phone is a really big thing. But I don't understand why you would.
I don't understand why you would then make your web client or your website look the same as the mobile if there is a better version for a computer.
Well, that's the thing though, right? Like, everybody keeps falling into that trap. Like, I used to call it, along with my flatmate, we used to call it tablet disease when, Windows 8. Does anybody remember that?
Yeah. And nobody and they had to patch an option to close their Metro mode or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they did, nobody ever used it again, except when it forced you to, which it would do once in a great while. But I feel like that's just an extension of that, because everybody was crazy about tablets. So, everybody was expected to be crazy about tablets, and so they decided to rejig every website, every application around being able to fat finger your way to the things that you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is just an extension of that type of thinking. Oh, well, we need to make it work on mobile because mobile is the expanding market. We can just ditch the other markets, obviously, because that always works well.
Totally.
Oh, wait, where's our original consumer base from again?
And where did they go?
It's like, this is why Blizzard is currently a laughing stock, because they haven't learned this lesson despite it playing it a million times all over the world.
Slight foreshadowing.
Well, as of last week, foreshadowing means we talk about it as foreshadowing and then we never actually discuss the topic.
Yes, that sounds about right. That's what it means, isn't it?
Anyway, end of my week for realsies this time.
Okay. So, speaking of foreshadow, I foreshadowed to Seraphis with wiggly fingers and spooky ghost noises.
Ooh.
That something might be coming.
Uh-oh.
I finally sat down and went through Doki Doki Literature Club like he's asked me to for probably 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so we'll get the positives out of the way first because there's a whole lot of negatives, and I don't want to start off negative. So, the positives. It does try to do something for its time. The way it makes you do its big twisty stuff, it is fairly unique. I don't know. I cannot think off the top of my head of any other game that's asked me to do stuff like that. I don't know if they exist or how common they are. But the way it presents you having to do the gimmicks in its story is a unique and novel thing. It has novelty value. The characters have the potential for depth, although this turns into a negative really fast when the game starts going. The game's a meta game.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what this is. The game is as meta as you can get. I cannot think of another example of a more meta game than Doki Doki Literature Club. This game asks you, after hijacking control from you for an hour, to autoplay text to you with just one girl on the screen and one CG image.
Isn't there a fast forward through that scene?
Maybe, but no, not that one. That one, she's in control of the conversation. The normal speed up or progress text options just don't work.
Oh,
She's
right.
talking.
And if you try and use them, she confiscates them.
Yeah, she jacks them from you. And it turns out not to matter. You don't have to sit through the whole
No,
thing anyway.
you don't have to sit through it at all. I'm not really sure whether you're supposed to draw that conclusion, but they start to lead you very heavily in that direction.
Yeah, the part where she starts mentioning game files and where her character file is located and how to access it in Steam.
Totally don't delete this, folks. Yo.
Please don't throw me into the briar patch.
Yeah, like, so the game's meta twist is that one of the characters is I'm spoiling the ever loving crap out of this.
Oh, yeah.
One of the game's characters, Monica, is self-aware that she's in a video game, but she is not slated to be one of the main heroines in the game. She's just a major NPC that became aware of the world in the game itself. And so, because she's aware of this, she's able to keep tinkering with the game itself and mess with its files and totally screw with the personality traits of the other characters in an effort basically to give herself a root. Because she doesn't have one. And she just wants to spend time with the player because she knows the player is the only character that's connected to the real world and not in a video game.
She kind of goes a bit yandere.
She lampshades this in her stupid talking about how she's not yandere, actually, for a good, 4 minutes.
That's usually a good sign that somebody is.
She has an unbelievably long list of idle talk topics.
I sat through the whole dang thing.
I skim read them on the wiki because I haven't actually played the game and I have no intention of playing the game, so I went and spoiled myself in detail on it because I just don't have the time for that sort of crap.
I got the song, the game in song form, so that's where I go. I'm trying to actually find it so I can stick it into the chat.
So yeah. I was not impressed with this meta twist as a narrative device at all. I thought it was really, really weak.
Well, I think that it's almost the opposite of weak in a certain sense. I feel like they play it up so much that it just becomes a gameplay gimmick in and of itself.
Well, yeah.
It stops being meta and starts being just another game.
Yeah. It just eats the whole game. And the game just becomes the gimmick rather than telling any kind of meaningful story.
Everything about the game's themes drown in the gimmick. It's completely overwhelmed by the gimmick. It's just about the gimmick. And why I pointed out what I was saying before about the what was it? Just a second ago, and I've already forgotten. What I was saying before about the gimmick being too strong. Is that when you make a meta gimmick really, really strong, that's what we call making a game. So any theme that they would ever try and introduce, which required playing on the, what measure is an AI type of shtick that Monica's character has as her theme, completely dissolves when you realize that the gimmick has become so strong that you are just playing a video game trying to convince her to, stop being evil or self-terminate or whichever. It evolves just into a sub-game.
Yeah, and it totally upends whatever story would have been there. The thing that bugged me the most was it put these trope-heavy stock characters at you at first, but they showed they could have some depth to them and you can build them. I'll give you a hint. Most good characters start as trope heavy stereotypes until you get into their character.
Because most real people do.
Yeah.
Right? Because you see the obvious traits and that's all you know about them.
Yeah. And then you build into what makes them a good character over time. And there are hints of it there with some of these characters until Monica just starts messing with everything in Act 2. And the other girl, who is clearly meant to be the main girl to the protag, is killed off in Act 1. And not seen again until the finale.
From what I have learned about the way the game proceeds, is it implied or is it not, because this was not clear to me, that the main girl is not supposed to die had Monica not become self-aware? She's not supposed to die outright early on in the story.
One of her during that long ass chat with her, I think it lampshades that she messed with her personality as well. because she messed with the other two girls' personalities, made one obsessive and yandere to a point that she goes knife nutso. Made the pink-haired girl basically be ignored and have anything that happened with her forgotten by the other NPCs. And she did something to Sayuri, but I don't know what she did. I can't remember off the top of my head. But she did say she messed with her files too. So I think that counts as implying she wouldn't have killed herself.
Right. But I mean, there's certainly as far as if you're talking about, her, that the main girl, the erstwhile main girl's plot line, like they do the depression thing in a little bit of a flanderized way, but it does ring true in a sense that, like, her conclusion, of course, is that if you if the main character returns her feelings, then she because she's depressed, it doesn't immediately make her ludicrously happy. It's because she doesn't deserve to be happy, and if she doesn't get her feelings returned, it's because she doesn't deserve to be happy. Like, that's pretty authentic depressive thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so they clearly knew how to write the character. It's just that that's not what they were planning to do with the game at all.
I think it could have actually worked well as an okay story. The other two girls had more set up for character development as far as actual plots you can explore rather than just depression. If they'd have let Sayuri's death be part of a main story and rolled from there, you could have built something with that. You could totally have done something with that.
The thing is that that's sort of like that's the A-side story that they didn't write. The B-side story that they didn't write is to explore anything whatsoever about the ontology of the game itself. Like, why? Why should a character in a visual novel become self-aware? Why should she be capable of this? Why should she have motivations at all? Why should she want a relationship with the player? Why should she do any of this? Why does she have humanesque behaviors, humanesque motivations, humanesque goals? Who is responsible for creating this scenario? Like, nothing about the actual situation, as far as I'm aware, is ever explored. It's just you have to just accept that it happens because that's what the story is, which runs hard against the theme.
Yeah, especially because you have to perform the exact same actions Monica's been doing to kill Monica to progress the game. Otherwise, you're locked in Act 3 forever.
Yeah, so in the end, the story about a girl who doesn't want to do as the story says is you must do exactly as the story says and just accept all the things that don't make sense.
There is no other way to progress past Act 3. You're stuck with the single CG of Monica with the little animated void snowflakes in the windows forever if you don't delete her character file from the game's actual file directory. So I don't know. I don't know what to really say about the game. It's a gimmick. It is probably caught as much attention as it did because it was so novel and the way it makes you execute that gimmick.
Well, I mean, but from what I can see, it was just the same genus of popularity as whatchamacallit, Undertale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Undertale actually did the meta thing better, and that it kept it close to one ending of its 3 endings. But it still played meta tropes like saving your video game and experience points as meta things into the story, and I didn't like that part because it made it way too heavy-handed. And what gets me about all these meta games, I ranted to Vol for about half a paragraph about this, was all these things are doing meta twists in the wrong way to make them engaging and stick. At least with people that have already seen them before. There are plenty of games that have the meta twist, but they do not do it in a way that engages you, the player, as a character, but they mess with your perception of what you've been doing the whole time. That's a good meta twist. For example, the 2 good examples are 999 and Ever 17. I'm going to spoil the crap out of Ever 17 because it's ancient, and I'll spoil a part of 999. Ever 17 has a character called Rip Van Winkle, who is a semi-omnipotent observer with very limited ability to interact with the world. His actions basically consist of what a player of a VN could do. And so he is trying to get a good ending for these poor people trapped at the bottom of the ocean. And it turns out you've been playing as him the whole time, not through the eyes of whatever character he's looking through. So that, and he manages to come, it pulls away in the very last act, and the very last route, where he has to sit down and you see his thoughts, and he has to think a way to get these characters out of this doomed situation. And he finally comes up with one. That was a good meta twist. 999 does a good meta twist. Throughout the entire game, you play through the perspective of Junpei. And at the very end, you realize the whole time you haven't been playing as Junpei, and 16-year-old Junpei, who's with 16-year-old Akane. You're actually looking into the future as 9-year-old Akane through Junpei's eyes and helping him do things. That was a good meta twist. It engages the player and makes it meta by giving those characters the same actions the player has to make as that are typical of the genre, but it does not make the player a character.
Yeah, there's a similar twist in Death End Request, and I'll spoil this since I'm the only person who plays Compile Heart games. But basically, you spend the entire game, you are playing as, and insofar as you're playing as anybody, you're playing as Mizunashi, the programmer who has discovered that his co-programmer has been stuck in this game because she's been, kidnapped or whatever. But it becomes sort of semi-clear later on that you're not in a linear adventure. You happen to be playing in the most important iteration of a repeating story as another sort of like a transcendent Mizunashi from outside the current Mizunashi's sort of loop, who has been assisting him with decision making throughout the course of the story to make the right choices to push the story forward, because you, having been through the loop before and have reached sort of the outside where you're no longer trapped in the time loop, you know the ends of some of the things, but because you're not the winning Mizunashi and you're not the current Mizunashi, you only know, up to a point how things should go before they can resolve themselves. So you basically are a person who provides assistance, and you actually have the opportunity. I don't know what the normal end is, but you get the normal end is gotten by taking the opportunity toward the end of the game to basically stiff them on your assistance. And it causes everything to grind to a crashing halt. But the implication is that you are one of the iterations of him who didn't win all the way through. Might be from a future one, might be from a past one, but hasn't, reached the end goal yet. And some things that he doesn't, and have therefore been able to basically nudge him along the right path. Whereas you don't realize that this is the case until very late, and the reason for all of this is tied into the story, and it's not really clear who is revealing what to whom a lot of the time, because there are so many different powers at play. Like, as I mentioned when I talked about finishing it, it's a very untidy resolution because they spun out way too many plot threads for them to resolve in the time that they allowed themselves. So, but yeah, it's a similar sort of twist in that you are playing as the person you appear to be playing as, but you're playing him. You're playing New Game plus him.
Yeah.
Basically. And he doesn't know until he gradually comes to the revelation that everything you think it's you coming to the revelation because the first time you play it is. But for him as a character, he's coming to the revelation that obviously he's done this before. This is the only way things could have stacked up so conveniently.
Yeah. And that's a perspective twist that's pretty good, and does have meta elements of him having the same controls as the player would, I suppose. But
yeah, it's implied every time you make a decision which changes the direction of the story and ignores a bad end is because you prompted him, basically. to do so.
But yeah,
So all of the direct controls to the combat and that's you playing as the current Mizunashi. But every time you make a storyline affecting change, that's you sort of whispering in his ear.
Yeah. The sudden in 999, like the sudden inspirations that Junpei gets to solve puzzles, especially the last one in the final ending, are Akane helping him through time, and that's the way they translate the player knowing how to play Sudoku and Junpei not having a clue. So that's how they do it there. But this is a common thing with meta twists. I feel like they're just a step up from the standard perspective twist. When perspective twists are fine, VLR, the sequel to 999, only goes for the perspective end of that type of twist, but it illustrates it quite clearly. The meta twist is, when done correctly in that manner, is just a step up of the perspective. And when you take it too far, you don't make it a story twist anymore. You make it a gameplay gimmick. Yeah, it's just a gimmick.
And in this case, because their objective seems to have been to just take the gimmick and then just run with it right off the edge of a cliff, it ends up drowning everything else that could have been done with the story.
Yeah, and it consumes the whole conversation, and as you can see with us talking about it, it's all we can talk about. It's all that matters at the end of the game.
Yeah, because ultimately there's not really much else to the story. I mean, the themes undermine themselves so often. Like the golden ending to the game is one where Monica basically removes herself, and for reasons that are never explained, the leader of the literature club always gains self-awareness, whoever that leader might be. And so when it gets passed along to somebody else, they become self-aware. And in the bad ending, they react to this by going insane and becoming an even more unstable version of Monica. And in the golden ending, they just terminate the game. Like, there's no good ending for this, so I guess it's over.
I do kind of like the way you get the bad ending, though. If they're going to run with this novel meta twist thing, and that before you start a new game, you just delete Monica's file immediately.
Yeah, and then the one who ends up in the position of the leader of the literature club goes completely berserk.
Yeah. Like, make it stop, kills the game. Try again.
But the reality is that there must be, if in context, in universe, there must be a story behind why is the leader of the literature club self-aware? Why is Monica able to handle it, but another character instantly goes insane? Like, these are all unexplained plot threads.
Why does the same character take it just fine in the golden ending? There's a whole lot of questions here.
The action that you take in order for her to think that it's okay and not go insane is to simply slavishly play out the game in the most, completionist, artificial manner possible, which should be anathema to somebody who's just become aware of their prisoner status inside a video game. That should be the absolute worst thing you could do.
Yeah. And it does not do enough to explain the mechanics of why these characters are self-aware at all. If you're going to bet your whole story on Monica's meta twist, you need to do something to explain it in the rules and universe of your game. And they just don't do any of that. She just is because we said so.
Which is, that's the mechanic that is supposed to be that she's rebelling against. That the story says so, therefore she has to accept it.
But the thing that makes her think that is because they said so. So so
on the sort of the next level up, the world in which we actually occupy, realistically, the reason why she acts the way she does is because she's programmed to do so. She's exactly the same degree of slave that all of the other characters are, except in our real world, as opposed to in her real world.
Yeah. As far as we can tell, she is just like all the other characters in the game. She just happened to get self-awareness, and for some reason thinks she's special.
Of course, from our point of view as people, we know that she's just another character in a visual novel. We know there's not actually a self-aware person in there. The problem is that because they cut so close to the bone with their meta twist, it's impossible to look away from that.
Yeah, and she goes on and on in her little talk about how the other characters weren't real people at all, and she was just killing programs. Like, honey, what do you think you are?
But why does she think she's not a program? Why is she in denial about that? Like, that's the actual story. The actual story is, why does all of this happen? But they don't tell it.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's because they are planning on writing a sequel or because they don't actually have an explanation, but yeah.
My money's on the latter.
Yeah. This is a story that desperately needed a why answer to a lot of questions and just refused to give it.
Yeah, this is sort of like in another game, I would expect there to be, the golden route explains everything. Like, and I know this is the worst scenario. This is the worst example I could give, but I'm going to give it anyway because it's the first thing that comes to mind because it is ever at the forefront of my mind. In Fate Extella, the whole purpose of despite the execution, lay aside the execution, the whole purpose of the Golden Poem arc is not to be another arc for another character, but to provide the explanation and resolution for all of the untidy things left over from the previous 3 plot arcs. There's no terminal arc for Doki Doki Literature Club, which explains the underlying rules. Why did all this happen, and how can we bring it to a proper conclusion? Instead, the story determines that there is no proper conclusion. Therefore, we're just going to end the game.
Thanks for playing, everyone. Yeah, no. The story presents itself as though computers and programs are like created by arcane runes inside the little box next to your desk. But this is doubly worse if you've taken computer science classes because that thing isn't made of arcane runes.
Also the game engine that they used, Ren'Py, doesn't have character files. There are no character files. That's not how that development system works. If you use that engine to produce your visual novel, you know that there are no character files. So deleting character files is not going to do anything.
And now we're getting meta about the meta.
Disconnected for a sec there.
Oh dear.
But yeah. So that's DDLC. If the gimmick, well, we've already spoiled the gimmick, and that's really all the game is.
Well, I mean, let's put it like this: you you did what you said you would.
Yeah. So not my thing, and it's mostly not my thing because I do not like that gimmick at all when it's played the way Doki Doki did it, and I do not like meta twist done bad in general. They are perfect. They're some of my favorites when they're done right. VLR has one of the best twists of all time. But
I think that this is a member of the same genus of problem as the one that I talked about earlier, where every time a visual novel tries to engage in dime store philosophy, the sketchy amount of knowledge that I have about real world philosophy is enough to completely undo it. And so when a similar scenario is in play here, where it's okay to do meta twists they can make for engaging narrative mechanics, but when you cut too close to the real world, it just becomes super obvious what a gimmick they are.
Yeah. So it's a thing. I was not a big fan of that one, but if you're interested in it and meta gimmicks and sound interesting, you really want to have Monica sit there and talk to you for an hour
because she's obviously best girl.
Because she kind of removes all the other choices.
That makes her best girl. I'm sorry.
So
I growled he made a 90. What do you want?
You can go check it out. I think it's free on Steam. So if it sounds interesting, there's nothing stopping you from trying it. But I
and then you can send us an email about why we're wrong and why your chosen best girl is best girl.
Yeah. Well, there is no other girl, so
only Monica.
Just Monica.
Just Monica.
I think the name of the chapter is Just Monica. But yeah. So that's that. There's one other video game I want to talk about, and I'll use it to segue into the GNUs. Unless we got an email, did anybody actually check?
I think that Seraph has sort of burned himself out on the last email, so I'm missing those planning to. He wrote one?
He wrote one.
I know he was very dissatisfied with his writing on the previous one. So how are we going to orchestrate the segues then?
We'll do it as foreshadowing.
Is this a new one? Oh yes, yes.
Before we do that though, let's go through the other game and I'll roll the news topic into it because it's very small.
Right. Go.
So the other game I sat down and played a lot of was Crash Team Racing.
Ah yes.
The new one on PS4. Don't buy this game right now.
But I'm nostalgia's.
I know. The game plays great when it works. It has so a lot of things in this game, especially the grubby fingers of Activision, have touched this game. Not in a money grubby way, but in a grindy way. And I don't know how they're going to monetize it.
Racing game.
Okay. So here's how Crash Team Racing's releasing new tracks and new characters works.
Oh dear.
There's a store where you can spend the in-game funny money called the Pit Stop. The stuff in the store rotates every 24 hours.
Oh boy.
Why?
And you can spend Wumpa coins to get stuff. You can't actually purchase Wumpa coins with real money, which kind of surprised me. I'm surprised. They're going to find a way to make money off this. But yeah, and the grind to get these Wumpa coins is the most obnoxious thing on the planet. So to get these things, you get like 20 to 60 a race in single player. You need like 5,000 to unlock the new characters.
Good gravy.
So how do you do that? Well, there's a mechanic that has no indicator on the UI anywhere online that for the first 30 minutes of active racing time that you play online, so the timer starts and stops until 30 minutes are used up from 3, 2, 1, go until the last person crosses the finish line in an online match or they time out because they couldn't cross it within 30 seconds of first place.
Because they're bad. Yeah.
So that goes like that. And for those 30 minutes, you get double Wumpa coins. So
double Wumpa coins. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So you get like
showing me the crunch there, are you?
Oh, sorry. It's 5 times the number of Wumpa coins.
That's better.
Yeah. So you get like 210 to like 600 Wumpa coins per match, and times 2 on weekends and holidays.
Holidays for which country?
U.S. presumably because they just did 4th of July.
Good.
But
why?
So,
because people are fanatical about this game. That's why.
So you got to get online. You got to do your daily races to get your Wumpa coins, and then, this game has mobile events, like mobile game events in it. So whenever they release new characters and maps and tracks,
you've got to roll the gacha.
No.
You gotta sit and watch ads?
You gotta do dailies.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Like, go into battle mode with yourself, and grab 10 crystals in a crystal grab match, which means you put a computer on easy, you pick a character with high attorney and drive around the map and let the clock time out. Not fun. Stuff like this, do this random cup from the list of cups you can race in. Do this random, hop 12 times on this one random map. That's the kind of dailies we're talking about.
Pointless ones, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
At least in FGO, they try and tailor the dailies to the current event.
Yeah. So, in addition to this, completing these dailies gets you a chunk of event points, as do completing normal races during the event. And if you use the new characters, the new skins, the new car, so that they release, you can get an increase to those event points you get. And as the event points stack up, you build up your way up a ladder where you unlock more rewards, including one character that's unique to the event point rewards and their super skin at the very end.
So these are totally different from Wumpa thingies.
Yeah, this is right now it's called Nitro Fuel or something that they use to climb the ladder. But it's gotten in addition to Wumpa coins. And these things, you need, no joke, about 30,000 to get to the end of the ladder.
Wow.
You know how much you get for the end of a single player race?
I'm going to say something like 10.
5.
Oh, I was joking.
You get 5 for offline and 10 for online.
My goodness. The grind. The mind-numbing grind.
Put up to increase it by 50%. A whopping 15% nitro points.
So is that 2 or is that 3?
So I don't know yet. You have to, because you have to get the Wumpa coins to unlock all the new event parts and characters and stuff, and use them all together concurrently to get a max 50% boost, which I don't have yet. Despite being in the top 5,000 in the US for Nitro points, because I did this stupid grind. And there are also event quests that are meant to be done over the course of, 20 days or whatever. But they're so stupid, I threw my hands up and cheated on all of them. The most egregious one was in an online race, finish in every single position from 1st to 8th, so nobody can quit your game, on a very specific track in a game with 40 plus tracks, where each match has a random selection of 3 tracks that everybody votes on.
Why?
It's just like failing at game design 101, putting in an objective whereby you are not trying to accomplish the overall goal of the game. The objective of a racing game is to win. So why not set in a goal where you're supposed to fail to win?
Oh yeah, and then the event quests contradict each other. Win 10 races in this one car. Well, hang on, I gotta lose 7 of those races, and that's assuming other people don't hit the brakes right at the start line because they want a specific finish position that they don't have. If like, you even get the dang map.
Isn't it like the opposite of playing chicken?
It is like some sort of incredibly polite
No, you go first.
Please, after you.
Oh, I rear-ended a guy through and he sent me an angry letter. I needed the...
So what, you just shoved him over the line?
Up of the hill and just ran my cart right up his butt and drove him over the line ahead of me. Pickle.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a bit of a lag there.
The server hit red. I don't think that was any of us.
No,
but yeah.
Discord.
So here's how you cheat. And I feel no shame in telling you can cheat in this game for this kind of crap if it's just to do the event quests and dailies. Because this is hot garbage. Here's what you do. You load up that map, or whatever map you need the event quest on, and you just keep backing out and going back in. If your game starts to slow down, close it, and reopen the game, because it does have a memory leak if you do that. But just keep... Go in, wait for it to load, any of the maps that you need available for voting. If not, leave, and try to get the map you want. So until you get the map you want, you do that. And then when you're in the map that you have the quest on, wait for it to load all the way, wait for the 3, 2, 1, go traffic light to appear. Before you start this, make sure you have the icon for your PlayStation home bar set over settings immediately. And then you press, as soon as that traffic light shows up, you press the PlayStation home button. You press up on the D-pad once, you press X, you press down on the D-pad 3 times to go to network. You double tap X as fast as you can to disconnect and reconnect your internet, and then you press the PlayStation home button and the X button to go back and Crash Team Racing. And if you did it fast enough, you will disconnect from the race just long enough to make every other player an AI. And you will be in your own race as the host.
This is going to get patched out tomorrow, isn't it?
Probably.
Yeah, it's probably going to just dump you back to the main menu if you do that.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you the other benefits from doing this because those are legit cheating. But for dailies and crap, go for it. There is no shame in doing this. Because some of these quests are complete and total BS.
Just why? Did nobody say this was a bad idea during development?
One word. Activision.
No. Yeah.
But yeah, so all the new crap is terrible. All the old crap's just fine. If you like the adventure mode for Crash Team Racing, it's still there. It's still just as good as it was before. It is still a very deep kart racer compared to other kart racers without delving into gimmicks. It just has really deep mechanics and kart handling that you have to really learn how to use. It's still really good. The tracks are still unique and really good. All that stuff's really good. It's just everything that Activision stuck in there is a hot pile of garbage. And because, as with all of these re-release games, they have to have one major issue at launch week. This one has a
It's like it's on the box.
It's compulsory by law.
Yeah, I thought waiting a week would get me past this. It did not. So what happened? What happened was there was a save corruption glitch. Okay, people initially, it was just affecting people with their adventure mode saves. Okay, just whenever they go to save in adventure mode, just back that save up online if they have PS Plus, or stick it on a hard drive if they don't. Not too big of a deal. Still something that definitely needs patching, but that's not that bad. Until people realized that there was also a general save corruption glitch that happened if you downloaded a archive version of your adventure mode patch and played it. And this would corrupt all of your save data, including your unlocked characters that you spent all those 1 coin grinding hours on, all of your skins, all of your carts, everything gets wiped with no way to recover it.
That sort of thing results in homicides.
Yeah, it does.
So, if you are going to play this game, because as of right now, I do not believe it has been patched completely. They put a patch out that was supposed to fix it, but let me find the picture. This is what it does to characters. Poor Purah.
What did they do to Purah?
It's in the live show chat.
What even is that?
It also looked like the thing from Ice Age.
Yeah, Scrat.
Yeah, Scrat.
I think it looks like Scrat.
I have plenty of other personal screenshots I took. That's from somebody else. I have plenty of other ones that were just as stupid that I saw on the track. And that seems to be all the patch actually did. It didn't actually fix the save corruption bug because there are reports of it still happening en masse.
Just everyone into googly-eyed monsters.
Yeah, if you load the game wonky or the match wonky, that happens.
I'd love to see an option in the menu now for that, so you can unlock it.
Oh, don't give Activision ideas.
Yeah, they'll charge money for it.
Yeah, but yeah, the game that's there, if $40 is acceptable to relive Crash Team Racing from 1999 or whenever it came out, in high def graphics with all the maps from the sequel game, which are not as good IMO, but still passable, then go for it. That's perfectly fine. I think that is a bit high to ask for that, but it's not the most unreasonable price in the world. All the new crap is not worth your time. And they were double insidious by this. With some of the stuff they did. They said the trophy girls aren't going to appear at the trophy reward screen in Crash Team Racing, but they would like what they did with them. And so they made them all playable racers that you unlock through the current event going on with Wumpa coins.
Wait a minute, are these limited time unlockable characters?
Yes.
Oh, these are the ones that were removed from the trophy award thing because the social justice warriors got mad, aren't they?
Yeah, they made them into actual racers, which is better IMO. The trophy girls as racers is cool and all. They have there's 4 of them plus Tana are the event characters. So they stuck all the pretty ladies. Well, not really. They're all kind of ugly and they're furries. But anyway, they stuck all the girls as the event rewards. This is a dirty trick. This is a dirty trick to get people to play this game a lot on the first month, and it's going to burn a lot of people out because everybody wants the female character.
Yeah. Well, aside from Coco in Crash games, how many other female characters are there?
So ETR. Say again?
In the Crash series as a whole, how many female characters are there? There's Coco.
Coco, Tanya. Purr's a boy.
Purr's a boy.
And the 4 trophy girls. That's really it.
So that's it.
So they stuck basically 5 of the 6 female characters in this event.
All the furry bait.
All the
furry bait. And one of them is stupid good. Like, really stupid good. She's a balanced character that unlisted has the speed of a speed character. So she can turn way better and sharper.
But yeah. Good.
So yeah, these characters also are just straight up better than other characters in the game.
That's the one thing that I've always disliked about kart games is how ridiculously unbalanced they are in favor of particular characters.
Yeah,
I don't know why they need to do that.
Crash Team Racing, I always thought did the best job of this, where each character was highly specialized in what it could do, and that was relevant because the tracks were so diverse in what their track layout was like that certain characters had advantages on other maps. This is such a big deal that they let you change your racer after map voting goes on, if you want to. Because there are some maps, if you're playing a speed character, all you're going to do is run straight into a wall. over and over again, and you ain't getting anywhere. You need to switch to an acceleration or a turning character. There are some maps where there are too many straightaways for a turning character to have a prayer, although turning characters in general are really, really bad. I play Purah because I love Purah, but Purah is awful. Just garbage tier in this game. He is not very good.
Ouch. Oh, hello, cat.
But yeah, and this game has some of the best in-game core mechanics as well. For its coins or banana system, that from other kart racers and their equivalent, get 10 of this random pickup on the map and you go faster.
Yep.
It does that if you get 10 of them, but instead of having to power up your items through other ways, if you have 10 of the speed up item in your inventory, which you lose some of when you get hit, you will power up the items you have to a slightly more powerful version. It's not overpowered. It doesn't completely break the item that you're about to fire, but it makes it way stronger and way more usable.
And these aren't Wumpa coins?
No, these are just Wumpa fruits on the map that you have to get 10 of to go faster.
This is what Mario Kart does: is you use those coins on the track, you pick them up, and you go faster. And whatever you finish with the race with, you bank. Every time you get 50 of them, you get a new car part. That's it.
If they knocked a zero off the end of these prices in the pit stop, it wouldn't be that bad. But 5,600 for a character skin bundle with it discounted so the skin's basically free. Yeah, no thanks, honey.
Yeah, so just wait for the you could do the grind, or you can give us $10.
Yeah, inevitably when this event ends, all these characters will become DLC is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, most likely.
That's why the grind is so difficult. The grind is so difficult to get this crap because they know everybody won't be able to get all of them, and they'll want to get the ones they don't have. And I bet you cash money that's why it is. Mm-hmm. It also, and for the record...
Well, they bet you cash money, that's why it is as well. So,
yeah.
They really want your cash money.
Yeah, it's all about the cash money. But yeah, Crash Team Racing is a really great kart racer. It has the best boost system in the game, in all racers, by the way. When you start drifting, a gauge will start filling up underneath your minimap or your speedometer, whichever you have active, or none if you turn them off. And it has a section that's level 1, which is fail if you tap because there's two drift buttons. Whichever one you tap and hold will start you drifting. And as that gauge is filling up, you want to hit it as close to the top as possible, up to 3 times in a row to get a better and better boost. And this becomes really, really complicated on some bigger maps with learning how many boosts you can do and what degree of boost you can take. Because sometimes if you go for the maximum boost, you're just going to run into a wall. And it's just a really good subtle mechanic that takes a lot of practice and map knowledge to get good with. But it's a natural feeling thing you just kind of practice with as you run the map. And it feels really good when you're able to pull off all the boosts together. It's not like, just drift for a long enough time and you get the go boost. You actually have to time the button press. And with 3 consecutive button presses on perfect boost, you can go really, really fast. And the map designs are all some of the most diverse and unique of any kart racer out there, barring maybe, like, Diddy Kong Racing gives it a run for its money. But CTR has the most...
Racing also had multiple vehicles.
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
But yeah. So I really have always liked Crash Team Racing as one of the better generic kart racers out there. But it got Activisioned all over.
Badly.
Like so many things these days.
I mean, strictly speaking, the entire Crash Team Racing original game is there in the box on the disc when you buy it. So if that's all you're looking for and you don't want any extra crap, or you can resist being tempted by the new racers and stuff, go for it. It's perfectly fine. It's Crash Team Racing. Just be careful of the safe corruption glitch.
I can understand that way of thinking, but I sort of just feel insulted.
Yeah, that's
that they're even asking you for more stuff. Like, I mean, I don't have any affection for the game, but I know people that really do. Like, I got one friend who's just like was absolutely nuts. It was the only thing he cared about on PlayStation. But yeah, like while it would be great to have all of that again, I mean, I would feel just like, how dare you? Yeah. How dare you? Like, you're entirely trading on my goodwill to come and spend money on this thing where you haven't done any new concept work. You're just working on the original material, basically. And you want a whole pile of extra money? Like, you can't be even a little bit generous to reward loyal fans of the franchise? Not even a bit?
You can't give us like a 10 times Wumpa coin bonus for the first month for early adopters or something? No? Okay.
I suppose that the early adopter thing, like, we dug our own grave on that. by adopting things early without incentives. Like, there's no reason why they'd give an incentive if they know they don't need to.
Yeah. And nobody's talking about how crap this system is. I bought the game. I waited to buy it. I like Crash Team Racing. I was not in love with Crash Team Racing. And I waited to get it. And everybody was saying it's really good and it's a fun time. I'm like, okay, I'll scoop it. And I scooped it and then saw all of the Activision. And nobody told me about the Activision.
I did not know about all the Activision, actually, so I'm glad somebody at least is talking about it.
To be fair, most of the Activision did not start until the 3rd. So that's a thing. It was the event started on the 3rd, so yeah. The event was not going on, so the worst of it, with the new characters being out in it, wasn't there yet. It also makes everybody play the exact same character online with the exact same car and the exact same paint model, because that's what you get the Nitro Boost from. Just, bad design all over the place in the new crap. But yeah, make your own decision on that. It's a good kart racer with a whole lot of Activision all over it. And that's all I got. And that's all I got for Vidya this week. That's really all I got that I really think is worth talking about, because we're running late anyway. So we should do an email, and then we should move on to the news. Somebody want to do the email? Fern?
Email.
There's not a whole lot of news, so we have our email from Cerithus. I'll take it if you like.
If you want. You can take it if you want.
So he says, "Dear No Excuses. So it has come to this. Final Fantasy XIV Bunny Bringers has dropped and it bought bunnies. Lots of them. At times, I felt like Terra with grown-up Ellen. I actually prefer that. I wouldn't need so much of it, so many adults.
The problem with Ellen is not that they're Ellen, it's that they never grow up.
All of the lollies. I was a lot more excited about TP being removed, or tidying up the retainer and crafting UI. Still can't craft from saddlebags, though. I might buy the next expansion for Final Fantasy XIV if I get super bored of WoW. Was the TP gauge actually used for anything towards the end?
Well, which is the TP gauge again?
Well, you had your MP, your SP, and your TP. And
the
TP
right,
one
yeah.
was always something like 15 points or something. Never really seemed to serve much
remember
of a purpose.
Well, when you needed to sprint somewhere, maybe?
Maybe?
So I guess you just can't sprint now? I don't know. It's been a very long time since I've played it.
Yeah. Alright. Because suspiciously, a week before SHB, which is Shadowbringers, Blizzard released their content patch. It's alright. They did this last time too, now that I think of it.
They always do this. This is part of their objectives. I don't even know why they try and maintain the illusion that they're not directly trying to present competition in this way. Like, nobody believes them.
Nobody believes them. It's alright. I suppose the largest content patch ever, but they have been saying that about every patch since Legion. Nazjatar looks nice. Gave me a Subnautica vibe, just without, with all the water being temporarily removed. What?
Well, the whole shtick is that Nazjatar has sort of been exposed again.
Oh, okay. It's all kind of rose up. I thought they were going to do a
I don't know if it rose up or whether they put a sinkhole in the ocean with magic. Could be both.
All right. But if they're going to keep following Subnautica, though, then yeah, delve deeper, find more tentacles. That sounds about right. Seems like a nightmare to navigate to classes without stealth due to the mob density. There are a bunch of things to explore, but the real exploration is in Mechagon. Tons of mostly useless things to do, unless you're gearing up an alt, but you can get a robot cat mount. Nazjatar is super time-gated, Mechagon is not. It is, however, covered in robot spiders and cyborg gnomes. Make of that what you will. So yeah, it's going to be a long 2 weeks for the raid and a new dungeon to open up. And that's from Cerithus. I've honestly stopped looking at all things WoW.
Thank you for the email, Cerithus. But yeah, I don't follow WoW. Vol is my source for WoW at this point. I don't talk to anybody who plays it.
I do follow WoW out of morbid fascination, not because I actually intend to play it or anything like that, because like I said earlier in the show, Blizzard is pretty much just a laughing stock now, and I'm curious as to how deep the hole will go.
Mhm.
So that's the main reason that I keep watching content on it, and there's still a part of me that would like to see them pull through. I don't legitimately think they will, but it would be nice not to see that part of my history just go up in smoke. It would be nice to see that there's something, you know, there that they can rescue. But I think that they need to come to a practical realization that nothing that they have done has worked, and that what they have been doing is not like what they think that they've been doing is trying different things to see what sticks, but that's not really what they've been doing. What they've been doing is repeating the same thing over and over again and assuming they'll get a different result, because the one thing that they don't do is listen to feedback. So yeah, maybe try that. Everybody was happy during MOP. That's the weird thing. Like MOP was the high point of the game in terms of mechanical complexity. There are lots of arguments you could make against elements of MOP. I didn't play during MOP, so I only know about the secondhand. But like I said, I follow WoW, even if I don't play it, because I'm curious. But MOP was the high point of the game mechanically, and nobody seemed to be overtly unhappy about that.
Mhm.
And they revamped everything. And this was therefore, logically, one must presume, against everybody's recommendations. But they knew better, because, you know, we think we do, but we don't. That is the mentality, as we've been harping on and on and on and on and on and on about for years. That's the mentality that's killing everything. The thing you think you do, but you don't, because they destroyed what they had in MOP because they believed that they knew better. That, oh, well, they may like it, but they're wrong to like it, so they better start liking something else. Like, that's it's a really stupid way to build a video game, especially an ongoing one with a large fan base. Like, when you've got a large number of people in an ideal world, when you've got a large number of people, you respond to that by trying to keep them.
Mhm.
But that's not been the approach that they've chosen. Instead, what they've chosen to do is basically their approach is, we don't need a large number of people, we just need an equivalent number of whales. That's their approach. That's the new way of doing things. That's the new wisdom. Because that's the new wisdom, they aren't designing their game for people to play anymore, and that will eventually kill it. The thing is that it will keep making money until it stops making money altogether, which is not the normal death pattern for a game. Normally they peter away and then they fade away. But when you try and, you know, juice them like an orange, you juice them until all the juice is out, and then that's it. You throw it away.
Mm.
That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to squeeze it for every last dollar, and they need to realize that if they actually want it to continue to be a proposition long term, if that's in their plans, then they need to act as though that's true. They need to actually follow through. And they have not been doing that. They've just been trying to tread water and do the same thing over and over again, and assume that they know best, despite the fact that every time there's a new major patch or a new expansion, they'll come out with hat in hand with a whole list of mea culpas saying, oh, well, we shouldn't have done that, and we shouldn't have done that, and we shouldn't have done that. We're going to change our ways. But the way that they never change is to listen to the people who told them all those things were problems to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's always the case. They like to deny it and couch it in things. Well, people said a whole bunch of other things as well, and those weren't true. But there is a limited utility to that excuse, for starters, and secondarily, it's usually not true. It's usually, well, we managed to find one person who thought it would be better if gnomes were removed from the game, and we didn't do that, and the people who play gnomes are happy about it. Yes, well, I mean, that's not really what we're talking about, is it? What we're talking about
those
is
people
when
are everywhere in vanilla.
What we're talking about is when the people who are the very top players in the game say that your mechanics break down at the level at which we play them, and you can see them fraying at the edges on the way up there. And then they say, yeah, but we think it's good, so we're going to leave it in. And then, first raid comes out, everything implodes mechanically. But you were warned. You useless idiots were warned what would happen. And now you're running around trying to remedy the problem because you knew better. Like, this is a lesson that they should have learned by now and have not thus far. Maybe this time will be different. I won't be holding my breath.
Nah. All right. We've got a couple of little nuggets of news. While we're talking about Blizzard being dumb, then, how about you just pick that one up?
I don't know what I'm picking up with. What am I supposed to do? What are you trying to hit that I talk about?
It's okay. I got a new segue. Okay, so we just talked about WoW. So the first news thing that's been going around is more ragging on Blizzard.
Yeah.
So, Blizzard decided that some of the card art in Hearthstone just didn't look too sexy, too violent. And so they are replacing it. So, one of the cards they're replacing, by the way, Deadly Shot, for its violence, is considered one of the best looking cards in the game. And they're like, the art just didn't meet our standards. And initially, people were like, oh, well, maybe they're doing this to comply with China's heavy censorship laws they've had in place since the new government started doing its shenanigans.
That would be a really convenient excuse that they could hide behind very effectively.
But they decided not to. And they flushed it right down the toilet. And they said, nope, changes are not because of China. Not because of any regulations or anything placed on them. They just wanted to censor violence and sexual content.
I don't know how so many companies think that this is going to keep making money. It's not like they're like I can only assume this is sort of like how Hollywood is willing to fund propaganda movies that don't make a cent simply because they think that that's the right thing to do, even though they know that they lose money on every single one. They just feel that, like Google, they've got a job to push an ideological agenda. That's who they are and it's what they're for. So they're going to do it. I mean, that's the full extent of their logic. So yeah, I think that this is just one of those situations where they don't care about all of the whys and the wherefores because they already know what they want. And they don't care what anybody thinks about it because, they're operating under the illusion that getting woke won't be the same as going broke.
Yep.
And I don't know why. Like, I guess, there's a lot of money in the industry. They think they can get away with it at length, but seems like a risky move, if you ask me.
Not where I would place my bets.
All right.
Yeah.
I haven't even actually looked at this card art.
It's a totally new piece of artwork for some of these cards. Where do they have who has the better pictures? Neither of the articles I linked have particularly good pictures. Well, there's one, but okay.
Well, they replaced the succubus with a fellhound. That's all you need to say.
Yeah, those are two entirely different things.
Yeah, this is the biggest one. So the succubus has just been decided that she doesn't fit with the class fantasy of the warlock, I guess, and needs to be replaced with a fell stalker.
Yeah. If they say that they just wanted to swap her out with a fell stalker because her mechanic on the card doesn't fit with the succubus, that would be fine.
No, it wouldn't, because she's a sadistic succubus, so it makes sense in card text, or she makes you discard.
Yeah.
But
doing it for reasons.
But yeah, and look at the art for Deadly Shot here. Like, if you dig up, I'll post a picture of a compilation of the major cards that got changed into live show chat, so you can just see just how bad some of these card reworks are. Like, the old Secret Keeper has a small picture there, but that artwork's pretty good, and they just replaced it with Jaina Proudmoore without fears. And I don't even know what was particularly overly sexy about the old Secret Keeper. What made it just cross that line of too sexy for TV? It's just her shoulder.
Hold on, which one are we talking about?
The Secret Keeper near the.
Which one is the new one?
The one on the left. The left one.
Okay. So one of the things, that is verboten in social justice warrior art is anything that emphasizes a woman's buttocks. Like midriff is safe, buttocks are not. Once you've gotten rid of all the buttocks, then you can get rid of the midriff, but the buttocks are the priority.
I see. But yeah, so they replaced the old Secret Keeper, who was not a entirely unique elf girl, to be fair, but she was just a generic elf girl with Jaina Proudmoore with elf ears. They have replaced Bite, which was previously a feral druid, a vanilla WoW style feral druid, biting into some kind of animal, with just a new feral druid with big cat teeth. And the blood has been completely removed. There is no gore whatsoever.
And in no way evokes a bite at all.
Headcrack had some pretty good artwork of rogue whacking a dude and disorienting some kind of undead dude. And it has been replaced with a goblin throwing something at somebody in a very cartoony style. Deadly Shot is the worst offender. The old artwork looks really good when blown up at full size. It's the best art in the game for one of the for spell effects IMO. It used to be a large ballista bolt piercing through a plated Tauren's armor, and now it's just a ballista shooting a ballista bolt. Can't have people getting impaled.
Like, do they know what property they're talking about? It's like World of Warcraft. It's like where everybody's trying to kill everybody else.
Yep.
That's the whole point. What is wrong with these people?
Eviscerate has had all blood removed from the card art.
Because it does static damage.
Yep, it does static damage. Mistress of Pain is still a succubus, but now she's a more clothed succubus. And
which kind of goes against everything that a succubus is, really.
And now looks like some kind of Valkyrie war maiden instead of a succubus.
Right.
And then we have the Wind Fury Harpy, who had her camera angle changed to be not a sexy button boobs pose.
Admittedly, I kind of like the new Wind Fury Harpy.
Well, it's not. It's still. Well, it does add more clothing. But
it does, but she's not nearly as stupid a pose.
Yeah, it's.
Well, the idea with the other one was that it emphasized the legs.
Yeah. But it just makes the whole thing look awkward. So I kind of like the new one.
Yeah, and that's fine. But all these just...
I don't know. I don't know if I like the new one. I think it's kind of busy.
It's a little bit busy.
When you cram it on that card outline, it definitely doesn't do it favors.
Yeah.
But yeah, why is Succubus replaced with a Fellstalker?
Reasons.
Ugh,
just
so
just
dumb.
Reasons.
Just really dumb. Blizzard, why are you dumb? Oh wait, you're Californians. I forgot. It's California disease. All that poop smell must have gotten in your brain.
Why are all the game companies in California? Like, how can entry-level programmers afford to even live there? Like, doesn't it cost like... Doesn't it cost like $1,200 a month just to rent a bunk in a house? There's what I saw a thing on it on Twitter about how like there's people who are like they're living in these basically hot racks sort of arrangements where the only piece of property they own is, well, they rent the bunk, they rent the bed, and the bed is like it's basically set up like one of those Japanese hotels.
Yeah,
the ones that are designed for people who can't make it home.
For my understanding, people in Cali live in perpetual debt at all times and just have to pay for this stuff on credit all the time because they rent. Their yearly cost for renting an apartment is the goal I'm saving up for to outright buy a house.
That doesn't sound like a win to me.
That sounds like you're doing something horribly wrong.
Yeah. So they dumb. But yeah, that was that. We have a few more. I posted most of them, but if any of them jump out to y'all can.
I heard something about Blizzard looking to rehire people for all those positions that they fired people from.
Yeah,
a few months ago they sacked a good chunk of their community team, and now
800 people got fired.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is that was a thing.
Needless to say, the people who got sacked are somewhat miffed.
Well, you would be, wouldn't you? Like they aren't doing the image any good. Like even all of the big companies at this point are like in deep doo doo as far as PR is concerned. Like there's just scandal after scandal after scandal about EA at the moment with their development conditions and so on.
Oh, EA did more dumb stuff this week. Like some letter that said they just don't get why people perceive them as evil. I didn't link it because it's just more EA ragging, but it's we've been passing that pumpkin spice latte around for people to keep holding it.
I love it every time EA comes out with one of these presses saying why they aren't evil, because they entirely miss the point of why people are calling them evil every single time.
Oh, this was an internal communication between two dudes that was like, I just don't get why people think we're evil.
We only eat the occasional baby.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous like that. But it was, yeah. Blizzard, what are you doing? And yeah, they did fire a bunch of people. And the theory going around is they really wanted to fire some people that weren't doing very good jobs at stuff, but they couldn't because California's not a right to work state. And in the US, what that means is you can't fire somebody for no reason. If you're a right to work state, you can fire somebody for whatever reason you want as long as you don't make a public statement about it. As long as you keep your yap shut, you can fire them for whatever you want.
Provided that the terms of the contract allow it.
Yeah.
Like you still have to abide by the contract that you sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. And unions can complicate things, though in right to work states, unions are crippled in what they can do to stop you from firing somebody. Unless you're a teacher's union.
Honestly, to me.
You spend a little bit too much time dealing with the mine companies.
Yeah.
So yeah. And surprise, surprise, all the lefty states are not right to work states because that gives the employer too much power, man. So they have to do weird shenanigans like this, where they lay off half their staff and then rehire them.
Because raisins.
Yeah, because raisins. And because it's the only way they can cycle any employees.
Well, who was it? The reason why the Disgaea guys, NIS in Japan, the reason why the new Disgaea, the 5th one, is so much worse than the 4th one is because they tried to fire the core development team and rehire them at a lower rate because they weren't able to just adjust the rates, so they fired them all.
I'm not sure why people keep trying that. It never works.
And they refuse to come back.
Exactly. That's what happens every single time. Why
do you think anything else is going to happen? Like, what did you think was going to happen? What was the outcome supposed to be?
I'm not sure what they expect. Why would somebody want to go back and work for someone who wants just to give them the same job but for less money and was rather shady about doing it?
Yeah, it's all these provisions. The more provisions you give employees, the more you're going to regret it later, is what a lot of companies unfortunately learn too late. Like, you need to give them the basic package, and that's about it.
It's not even so much that. You just have to write your contract carefully and then stick to what you promise. That's all you really need to do.
And don't
doesn't need any of these extra shenanigans. You just need to enter into the agreement honestly.
Honestly,
but
I
that
think
would
is
make
where
sense.
A lot of companies fall over.
Yeah, people can't do that anymore.
It's that unknown H word.
Like the reason why there's all the shenanigans from both sides is because nobody enters into agreements honestly anymore. Like, because you don't need either of those if people, if people thought the idea of being as good as their word was something important.
Yeah, and in the U.S. in business law, which is the law I know the least about, the definitions of employer and employee are clearly defined in the law, and you fall into one or the other. And what this leads to is a culture of business where both sides are always out to get the other one instead of working together for a company.
Because you have to play on a team, I guess.
Yeah. And because they're so clearly defined as opposites in law, then what happens is you get a whole bunch of dudes that are like, well, we're employers, so we need to push for the best employee benefits of all time that screw over the employer. Or sorry, if they're employees, they got to screw over all the employers. And the employers got to screw over all the employees. And we have weird, wonky writing on things around freedom of association that make the right to work law necessary in the first place, when it should be implied, and used to be, but isn't anymore. Presumably some lefty state had to do with that, but we don't really know, or I don't really know. It's probably written down somewhere. Just get out of California, people. Everything about that place is messed up.
I don't know. I don't understand why it's such the heartland of development for software development. Like, it doesn't make sense. People can't afford to live there. Like, can you, like, if you look at the quality of, say, The Witcher 3 and its budget, and then compare it with an equivalent game coming out of Silicon Valley.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
just, you got to be joking, man.
There's a reason people in Nowheresville can get more mileage for their buck, because they ain't got to spend all their bucks on food.
Mm-hmm.
Or poop cleaners for their shoes or whatever.
Like, as ridiculously expensive as it is to house oneself in, say, San Francisco, it must be even more insane to try and rent office space.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. You will never catch me moving to a big city for all these reasons and more. Yeah, it's just bad Blizzard. Well, actually, in this case, I guess they did what they had to do. I can't really blame them for pulling these shenanigans if they're locked into the state they're in. I can't think of a good, legitimate reason to criticize them for this move. It makes perfect business sense if it's legal and you're in a state that won't let you just fire these dudes. I would do it too. So,
all right.
That's Blizzard.
Else?
There's a few things. Let's see. Okay, I wanted to bring this up because Extra Credits it started becoming a punching bag for me about 2018. I had been indifferent to it for a while since then, but it became a punching bag in 2018 when they released some episode that hacked me off for one reason or another. They just did the dumbest thing I've ever seen for any major internet publication.
This isn't the first time they've done such dumb things.
They trumped themselves somehow. They have gone full Macintosh.
Never go full Macintosh.
And in an impressive fashion too. Like, I always thought that this was going to be like a parody. Like, this is the sort of thing that you would imagine somebody doing a parody of, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like pure pose law. If you didn't know that Extra Credits saw themselves as a serious outfit, you would be poed by this.
Yeah. So the only conclusion we can draw from this is the already pretty lefty dude who was the voice synthesized narrator. When he left, he must have been holding them back, because oh my goodness, oh my gosh, I think we've gone full Macintoshes in full effect. We had them put out an official for realsies Extra Credits episode about how playing as a Nazi in a video game desensitizes you to Nazis, and they should just make the teams red versus blue instead.
And their qualifications for talking along these lines are
none.
Yeah.
None
My
whatsoever.
mommy thinks that I have an important opinion.
Pretty much. I couldn't watch the whole thing when I heard about this dumpster fire. It was too cringy.
I survived for 32 seconds. 32 seconds was all I could do. And then I got so incensed that I had to turn it off.
I made it maybe a minute or two, and it was just like, I'll just read the summary. And it is the most disliked video I've seen from all of them. Even their anti-Gamergate statements in the past didn't get this much hate. This was like
the Goobergorts.
Yeah, this got everybody turned against them, and they totally don't see if they did anything wrong.
Yeah, they said, oh, well, that just means that 90% of the people who visited this were Nazis.
Yeah.
That's not how logic works.
It's not how Nazis work. Like, there aren't that many Nazis.
But yeah, Extra Credits has just been fully cucked. Can we say that? I'm saying that. Extra Credits is just completely and totally cucked at this point. There's no saving it at all. There was never saving it to begin with. But now it's gone. It's down the drain. anybody that references extra credits from this episode onwards, I'm going to laugh in their face. I would already give them an eyebrow before this. But now you're just dumb if you reference this show.
Well, they never had any credentials per se to begin with. Like,
no, it's just a college
credentials
were
just like,
dude.
oh, we were the first on the scene to make this particular video. Therefore, we must be the authority by fiat.
Yeah, extra credit was just some dude's college project that blew up. That's all it was. But they got a really, really big head about themselves. So yeah, I am. Ooh, that made me both, in a way, happily mad. It hacked me off. But since these guys have been just going more and more insane, to see them go full Macintosh and tell the whole world, so people stop acting like they're a legitimate source you can reference. Oh, it just feels so good.
It's very convenient, really. I mean, it allows you to completely disregard a certain chunk of opinions, I guess, because they are all founded on, the logic of a person who believes that playing video games turns you into a Nazi.
It's the Jack Thompson
That's
argument.
what it comes down to. Yeah.
And that guy that got disbarred, if you don't remember.
I feel bad for Nazis, and to the extent that their word has been totally mangled now. Like, if they thought that the entirety of Nazism is founded around the idea that people who are Nazis are special, it's like, you're not special anymore. Everybody has now been forced into your club by people who essentially adhere to your philosophy but don't realize it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you look at what the progressive left's agenda is, and the people who the church at which the extra credits guys clearly worship, like, it's all the same socialist agenda that the Nazis had. I mean, they even want to exterminate the Jews. Like, that's why they all hate Israel so much. So, it's almost comical, really.
Yeah. Once upon a time, a long time ago, back in high school, I laughed at projection. Nowadays, no. It's totally a thing. It is the most obvious thing in the world. If somebody accuses you of something for no reason, they definitely do that thing.
All right. Anything else, or we about done?
This news is there's so little.
It's so little. It's so banal.
Well, I mean, there's always news about Epic.
Oh yeah.
Like, they decided that they were going to place the blame for the Shenmue debacle on Steam, from what I heard.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what their excuse was this time.
How? That's a stretch even by their standards.
I don't care about stuff like that.
Something about the way the Steam keys were distributed was all... First, it was the user's fault, and then it was Steam's fault.
Yeah, I think the Steam has some program where people who sell their game through Steam are allowed to generate keys to sell through their own store, and they get to keep the money if they use their own platform using Steam's platform. So if you sell something on Steam, you can also sell it through your own store and keep the entire profit.
Yes.
Using Steam's platform and using Steam keys. So, like, that seems like, I don't think that Valve are obliged to do that. Like, their platform is very powerful.
More to the point, they're actively working against Valve at this point by being an Epic exclusive.
Yeah, like, people. The thing is, that people don't. They turned around and they said, okay, so we're going to give Shenmue backers who wanted the game on Steam refunds. We Epic are going to pay for the refunds in order to avoid the disruption of the development of the game by these people who want refunds. Okay. The thing is, I don't actually view that as them being in any way generous. Like, the truth is, this is the absolute lowest amount of contribution they can do, which will not cause the project to actually implode. They need to. Their reputation is so atrocious at this point that they've got to do something. They have to do something. They can't just rest on their laurels.
Oh, they're going to screw it up even worse later. Just you wait.
Well, the thing that I've seen nobody talking about, though, because there are a lot of people, the people who are white knighting for Epic, and there are people who do, and I'm not 100% sure why. Their take on the matter seems to be of the sort that, oh well, I mean, this basically just absolves them of everything. You don't need to Don't need to worry about it anymore. This is they've per dollar, because they've refunded people. They've basically made up for whatever they had cost people at this point. The thing is, that game got its chance by way of people funding it under the original conditions.
Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for the initial crowdfunding campaign, this game would not be happening.
Yeah, and the initial, like I said, the initial crowdfunding game took place on the basis of the initial conditions under which it was undertaken. So basically, Epic are profiting off of getting the property to initiate development on a new game, which is something that they're basically using Steam's reputation to do indirectly, because it may, without the offer of Steam keys, maybe the crowdfunding never would have happened. Maybe it never would have gotten made. That's a possibility. Even though they've refunded all of those people have already driven the game to production using their goodwill. And that's just, Epic gets to laugh all the way to the bank on that one. So yeah, I'm not terribly impressed with their supposed coming to the party and doing their due diligence to refund. Like, they're painting themselves like they're some sort of martyrs for the Great War to give people a choice that isn't Steam, when really they're not any better than Steam. In fact, they are quite notably worse in several arenas.
Yep.
Can always rely on them for one thing, though, which is to provide us with news each week, because they cannot stop screwing up.
No, they've always got to continue to do a dumb. I actually wanted to play a bit of Satisfactory earlier this week. It's the only game I play on the Epic Store. And I couldn't, because the Epic Store just did not work. Outright crashed.
Sounds about right. Oh, Epic.
Yeah, this is
we
not
have one more.
Run a game launcher. It has to work.
All right, let's see.
I think that's about it.
We got one more company we can make fun of, though, in the vein of Epic, if we want to do that real quick, because this was hilariously dumb. And I did not. You told me this is apparently a common thing that people say now.
Yeah, it's a slogan that I've seen drifting about. Like, I've seen it on a few YouTube videos, namely in the context of people making fun of it or saying it's appalling. But it's a thing. It's the thing. But this is I've argued for a long time that this was always the intent. This was the foundational intent, because it comes out of Silicon Valley and everyone there is a pervert.
Ouch.
Pickle. There we go.
Pickle.
Okay.
Are you being attacked by your cat, Fern?
Not so much attacked, more lounged on.
Then why is it accompanied by ouches all the time?
Because cats are deceptively pointy.
I see.
So they lounge with claws.
Yes.
But yeah. So Ubisoft this time is the culprit, and they put out a tweet that roughly translated means love doesn't care about gender, race, or age. Only feeling. In Spanish. This is Ubisoft Spain.
I think that there's some important laws which will have something to say about that point of view.
Yeah.
So, Ubisoft Spain has confirmed pedophiles now. This is just the race to the bottom to be the most, quote, tolerant, unquote. Yeah. So, oh boy. I do not know much. Well, I know a good chunk of Spanish, but I use it for simple commands at work, on the job site. I don't use it. I don't use it regularly. It's not a language I use in day-to-day life. But even I could tell what this tweet was saying at a glance. It's a really simple sentence. And I legitimately saw people in both Spanish and English trying to say, oh, well, with edades, they meant the age of the game takes place, because they were talking about Assassin's Creed. And I'm like, no. We have a word for that already. There's a different one that's used in 100% of context when that happens. It's called epocas. And they did not use that word. And it was, if you can't read Spanish, this is not as funny as it would be, or horrifying, both actually, because the comments in Spanish are hilarious. these people ripped into Ubisoft.
I bet.
Well, you
they
should. Should you not?
No.
Yeah.
you
Is
totally
that not
should.
the appropriate thing to do?
Yes.
Someone done goofed like this, yeah, they deserve a good ripping.
So yeah, if you needed more reasons other than Uplay not to buy Ubisoft games, there
Right.
you go.
Ellen jokes are one thing, but this is on a different tier entirely.
Like,
Yeah.
we say the FBI is coming to get us for playing Ellen's in jest, or playing with Ellen's in jest. Don't take that the wrong
Wait,
way.
what? Yeah, phrasing.
Yeah. I was the Ellen in this case that got played with if Vol was the player with her, just to get the FBI on his butt instead of mine.
The FBI doesn't exist in this country.
There we go.
We
so
don't.
we're safe.
We don't. Well, no, we're not. We're not safe because I live in New Zealand, where there's no due process. You just
Right.
get arrested and shot.
Yeah, you don't
so-
have a Fourth Amendment. but yeah, we say that kind of stuff in jest because it's horrific black comedy in reality. When you break it down and really
Yeah,
think about it,
It's just a type of being edgy.
but these people were serious.
But that's because all of the other stuff has always been the thin edge of the wedge. It's purity spiraling, right? Everybody has to be 1 degree more tolerant than the last person.
Oh, as you
It doesn't
lose.
matter what they're tolerating. They just need to outdo the next person. That's the important part.
Yep.
It's purity spiraling, and it has the same effect no matter the ideology. Whether it's tolerance or intolerance, it goes the same way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what always undoes like extremist racial supremacist groups as well. Like everybody looks for the next pernicious element to eliminate.
Yeah, if you're looking for a group to be offended by, after you've eliminated or ostracized that group, the whole fundamental basis for your group is upended. You can't do that anymore, so you got to find somebody else. And
Yeah,
you're
there
going to go
always
with
needs-
close. Yeah, it'll be the
always-
closest people to you.
You always need a new enemy. You can't keep fighting the war without an enemy. You've got to create one if you can't find one.
Yeah.
And if you have to cannibalize your own people to do it, well, so be it.
Yeah, most people that think this ideology type can work should go read up on the French Revolution. I think it'll have something to say for you.
I don't think anybody knows anything about the French Revolution who says anything nice about it, because nothing nice happened there. There were no good outcomes.
No, there was not.
Everything was horrible forever. But
Paris
everybody
was
also
burning,
wanted to
heads
keep...
were being lopped off all over the place.
Marie Antoinette did not have a crystal pony.
Did not have a crystal pony.
Well, she
Ouch.
might have had a crystal
Damn.
pony.
Ah,
The first
cat.
butt stallion.
Okay, so Fern's being attacked by his cat, and we are running the show long, so we should probably call it here.
It's normally the dogs that are irritating me to end the show. This is weird.
So yeah. Before Fern's cat mauls him and bleeds him out while he's live streaming, I guess we should move to wrapping up. Closing comments go.
Cats are pushy jerks.
I had forgotten how annoying those stalker creatures in Borderlands are. The ones that turn invisible.
Oh, those
Mhm.
things, yeah. Shock
Once they
weapons
start
are
running
free.
at you, how do you even hit them? I don't have a shotgun.
Yeah, shotguns are a quick way to deal with them, I find.
I don't have a shock weapon or a shotgun.
Then you, my friend, might be boned.
That's the problem with once you've done your first playthrough of Borderlands, the further you get, particularly once you hit level 40 and onwards, you start realizing the only thing that matters is your toolbox. You need to have a toolbox.
Gotta have
Mhm.
toolbox.
And if the game doesn't want to give you one, well, you better start trawling the wiki for golden key codes.
I punched every single one of those in when I played. Just sat down for an hour and punched them all in when I was doing my
Yeah.
playthroughs.
I did a whole bunch of them, but I don't think it recognized half of them, even though it said it did.
Well, some of them are expired and some of them are not. And some
Yeah.
of them have different expiry conditions than the writers originally believed.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a website that keeps pretty good track of them that I used. All the ones except for like one or two worked.
Yeah.
I'd have to dig it up again. Freaking
Anywho.
Ubisoft. Pedofilos degenerados.
Take us out.
All right, folks. We will see y'all next week. Sayonara. Bye-bye.